Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast Football Edition, brought to you by our primary sponsor, BSN Sports. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined today by Keith Brown, AJ Fairchild producing, and this guy over here, Michael Hearn, is joining us as Tony Fairchild's out on work right now, so we're glad to have Michael here joining us today.
You say that now.
I guess we'll find out.
Give it an hour.
But we are on to week 13 of football, so we saw a lot of good games last week. Keith and myself were at Paulding and Cary, or Paulding and Fairview. I'm sorry, jumping ahead, but great game, great atmosphere. Mike was at
St. Mary's and Medina Buckeye.
The Medina Buckeye, way out east.
I just call them Buckeye, but
so he was able to witness them, and then AJ and Tony joined us as well, but AJ was at the Liberty Center and Oak Harbor game. So we got kind of spread out throughout pretty much all of Ohio and taking in some good football. And this week it's just going to continue to get better from here on out.
Yep.
All right, we're going to get into the news and notes from the area. So just talking about some major accomplishments. Congratulations to the Paulding Panthers on their first playoff win of their program's 108-year history. So been around for a long time. And again, they just continue to build on a great season this year. Yep. Eden wide receiver Kendall Briggle finishes the year with 1,000+ receiving yards, so congratulations to him. Columbus Grove, just a couple points here from the Bulldogs. They are now 37-17 in their 19 state playoff appearances. Last week's win against Gibsonburg was the 16th win in 17 playoff games at Clymer Stadium. As we always know, it's tough to win football games there, but even more so in the playoffs. In the second quarter of last week's game, quarterback Landon Best set a new record with 26 passing touchdowns. This broke the record of 25 that was set in 2019 by Blake Reynolds. And we remember Blake from back in the day. Yep. And we got a chance to cover a game when they played Tenora back then. And
him and Colin Metzger, I think, were a heck of a duo back there.
And I think they had a good wide receiver too. Do you remember who?
All of them.
Yeah, a lot of
them. They're all very good.
They are. But Blake was pretty solid too. But for Landon to beat that record, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think it was Coach Schaefer's son.
AJ?
Yeah, I think it was AJ.
He's one of them.
Yep.
They have a Clement kid too. That was always really good.
Yes, Gabe Clement. I think that's who it was.
He got injured later on, and that was a whole thing.
Yeah, he was solid to watch too at Grove. And then just a couple other points. Last week was the 354th game played at the 72-year-old Keyser Field, but it was the biggest crowd that was ever there. And we were there to witness it. And then also, this week will only be the second time in school history Paulding has played in the second week of November, and that was from Hicksville Week 10 back in 1977, so quite a while ago. And got a couple of those points from History Paulding on X, so be sure to check them out. They post a lot of good Paulding information.
Great follow.
Pretty much fell down a rabbit hole when I stole those.
Yeah.
Because I just realized there's a lot of really good stuff here.
Yeah, I'm not sure who runs that account. We'll have to find out, but I mean, they do a terrific job at covering Paulding, and some of the other local schools are starting to get some kind of, fan accounts for the schools. And yeah, it's terrific. I mean, because a lot of that information is hard to dig up. And, we at Tenora know it's hard to find records. So
that's impossible.
Anything that you can maintain and you can continue to put out there, that's just great. So we really appreciate that. All right, we're going to look at last week's game prediction results. Matthew, AJ, and Tony all finished first with 6-1 records. Second was a tie between Keith and myself with 5-2 records. On the year, Matthew has finally tied myself, Logan, for first with records of 174 and 30, good for 85%. Third is Keith with 165 and 39 record, good for 81%. Fourth is Tony with 163 and 41 record, good for 80%. And fifth is AJ with 162 and 42 record, good for 79%. So overall, pretty solid. Again, the top, hate to say it, but I lost my spot. But we'll see how
for
it goes
one week.
Imagine having 79% and being the fifth best person in your group.
Yeah. What are the odds of that?
That's insane.
Yeah. We've talked. It's been pretty solid this year out of all the games that we've picked, and for us, for majority of the group, picking 80+%.
Yep.
I guess it goes back to you can look at the numbers and see this, but has high school football gotten predictable overall, or is it just certain teams are on enough of a run that you see them and go, okay, I'm pretty sure they're going to get this one?
Yeah, I think it's more the later of the two.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
Think we know a lot of teams in our coverage area fairly well, and some of the games are pretty predictable. When especially you get maybe some conferences that are really top heavy, some that are a little bit lower on the back half. So Yeah, I just think, just covering them closely. I mean, it gets easier to, I think, pick them over the years. So, a couple games kind of got us. Obviously, Fairview and Paulding, and we did not hear the end of that on Friday night. Hey,
I'm going to be allowed in Paulding because I actually picked Paulding last week on another thing that I was doing, and everybody said, I think you're crazy. And I said, just wait.
Yeah, and actually, funny story. Do you want to tell them about the halftime deal we ran into with the kid from the Paulding band?
Yeah, we were moving back from the sidelines because the first half we were on the Fairview side. Second half we spent on the Paulding side. So we're moving back from the sideline as Fairview exits the field, and we kind of find ourselves in the middle of the Paulding band somehow. So one of the members comes up to us and asks about, "Hey, who are you guys picking tonight?" So we're over there just kind of getting out of the way, and we're catching some shots from the Paulding band.
It was a loaded question because he knew who we picked because I said, "Oh well, he said we picked Fairview," and then he made a comment about, "Oh, I already knew that Tony had picked Paulding. I just wanted to see what you guys would say." He
just kind of turned around with a smirk on his face and went back to the band. So it was a good night. It was fun. It was really fun.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get into round 2 playoff game recap. So we'll get into the game we were just talking about. That was the NWO Sports Game of the Week from last week. The 5 seed, the Fairview Apaches, traveled to the 4 seed in the Paulding Panthers, where Paulding won 14-10. At the half, Fairview and Paulding were tied 7-7. Total offense for the game, Paulding had 341 yards with 179 rushing and 162 passing. Fairview had 204 total yards with 166 passing and 38 rushing. Turnovers, Paulding had 3 with 2 interceptions and 1 fumble, and Fairview had 1 interception. Some top players from each team. Paulding linebacker, wide receiver Jalen Manns, 5 receptions, 83 receiving yards, 6 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 tackles for loss. Really had a pretty solid performance on the defensive side. To start the game, he had a tackle for loss and really got things going. Wide receiver Blake Roanhouse, 4 receptions, 43 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Running back Avery Cooper, 17 carries, 67 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Quarterback Colt Hunt, 16 of 29, 55%, 162 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, especially when it mattered most in the second half to Roanhouse, but he did have 2 interceptions. Fairview, quarterback Will Zedike was 15 of 32, good for 47%, 166 passing yards, 19 carries for 33 rushing yards. Wide receiver defensive back was tearing things up on the defensive side of things. Logan Olinger had 2 interceptions, 1 a 59-yard pick 6 that really helped set the tone early on for the Apaches. 5 receptions for 52 receiving yards. Wide receiver Gavin Mead had 4 receptions for 58 receiving yards, and kicker Landrick Vandermeid had 129-yard field goal with 1:14 to go in the third, which honestly, I told Keith, I said, man, wouldn't that be crazy if that field goal ended up winning the game? But, unfortunately for the Apaches, it did not play out in their favor. So, guys, Keith and I were there. So, I don't know, Keith, you want to kick things off with this one? We'll kind of discuss.
From the time we rolled into the parking lot, we got there probably about 20 till 5, quarter till 5.
Yeah, about 4:45.
And there was probably already, 50 people standing in line. And the
gates
parking
don't open till 5:30.
Yeah, the parking lot was just filling up, and they were starting to park people out in the field already. We're still 2 hours plus before game time.
Actually, I did have to laugh because we had pulled into the parking lot, and we got there early.
Yeah.
And an older couple, someone's grandma and grandpa pulled up right next to us in a hurry too.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of getting out, and I was taking my time a little bit, and the grandma was in a hurry.
She was ready to go.
She was ready to go, and she was yelling at her husband, "We got to go get in line." And I think her husband was kind of making a joke, like, "Where are we going to go? We still got time to go." But she was like wanting me to move out of the way, and I stepped out of her way and let her go. But man, she was excited for some Paulding football on Friday night.
Yeah, from the time we got there to the time we left, it was one of the better crowds, if not the best crowd we've probably been at in years. I mean, everything about the game was great. Going into it, you probably thought it would be a carbon copy or at least close to the regular season matchup in week 6, but I would think if you were a betting man, you would have bet it would be a high-scoring game and it'd be a lot of offense. And because the weather was not in factor, it was a beautiful night.
It was.
I mean, it was a perfect Friday night for a November playoff game. The field was mostly dry. We had rain in the morning, but I think that really didn't have anything to do with it. But I tell you what, both defenses came to play. The Fairview defense, the Paulding defense. First score of the game was Logan Olinger's pick 6.
It was
for 50-plus yards. Both teams took chances on 4th and 1s, 4th and 2s, and came up empty.
Couple goal line stops
by both teams, but kudos to Paulding. They made the plays when they had to. Not the best game by either quarterback, obviously. But Fairview had a 1st and goal, I think, from the 4 with just over 3 minutes to go. And you thought, boy, here we go. Fairview puts it in. We're going to see another. Pauling's going to have to come down and win it like they did in the regular season game. But give Paulding's defense credit. Like, they put the hammer down and they were all over Z-Dyke. I mean, Will didn't have a chance on any of those plays. So, especially the 4th down, just basically do it up for grabs to avoid the sack and kind of whipped it behind his head. But a great game defensively by both teams. And like I said, probably not the best offensive performance by either team. Obviously, if Coach Rakes had a couple things to do over again, he probably would. Same with Coach Menzie. But from start to finish, one of the better games, if not the best games we've been at in quite some time. I mean, I'm old school, so I don't mind seeing the defensive struggle where one play could change this game there.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it too.
You know, you got today's offenses, you go up and down the field and, you know, teams averages 30 points a game plus mostly, but this was an old school defensive smash mouth football hitting. We're on the sidelines. We could hear the pads a couple times, like blowing up, but it was a heck of a ball game. And yeah, congratulations to Coach Menzie and the Panthers as, you know, first win in the history of 108 years of Paulding football. Years. So, they're moving on to the next round versus Cary, but we'll talk about that later. But hell of a game.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, if you just took a blind look at the stats, I mean, 341 yards of offense for Paulding. They also have 2 picks in that fumble. You would say, oh, Paulding won this in a blowout. But as I've apparently learned recently, it's hard to beat a team twice. I don't know what the metric or the science is on that, but a coach recently asked me about that. So there you go.
But Paulding's defense, like I said, going back to them, touch base again. Like Fairview was in the top 6, I think, in the state for offense. Yeah. Points per game and total yards per game.
Will Z-Dyke and Logan Olinger. And I mean, you have a list of receivers.
Yeah, like kudos to the Paulding defense. Blake Roanhouse pretty much locked down Logan Olinger. And same way with the Fairview defense. I think Mans had the one long reception that led to the first touchdown, I believe. But outside of that, you know, Fairview pretty much limited to him as well. So, but to sum it up, a heck of a game, a heck of a crowd. Me and Tony were over there waiting for our food to get done from the concession stands, and Randy, I think was his name, Randy or Randall, on the grill, like flames are shooting up. He's got the fire marshal beside him, and it was a fantastic atmosphere. So from start to finish,
yeah, and I totally agree with you, Keith. I mean, just stepping back at one point, we were down, you know, beyond the end zone, and you just kind of step back, and I took a video of it, just like to look on both sides and see, you know, Paulding side packed and Fairview side packed, and you're in the middle of Paulding County, Ohio, like. This is what Northwest Ohio football is all about.
We talked about
both communities coming together, and you know, for a great game against, you know, both teams with great coaching and great players. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more. And you know, the big thing with this was, you know, Paulding's defense. I mean, that was the MVP of this game. And you know, credit goes to Coach Menzie and the co-defensive coordinators and Logan Doster and Jarrett Sitton. I mean, the pressure they brought on Will Z-Dyke, that was the difference in this game because he could not sit comfortably back in the pocket. He was always scrambling. I believe they only had 3 sacks, but I mean, that doesn't tell the whole story.
He was on the run
the entire game. But man, even Coach Menzie at the end said, you know, they were blitzing, they were doing stunts on the, you know, interior with the defensive linemen. And I said, I almost wanted to put a video together though, you know, because Coach Menzie had said earlier in the week when I asked the question, I said, you know, how are you going to contain Will Z-Dyke and, you know, his ability to scramble and his legs? And he goes, not about, you know, containing him. It's about, you know, what they're going to do with us bringing pressure on Friday night. And holy smokes, they brought pressure a lot. So especially when you got guys like Jalen Mans, you know, Easton Lehman had a couple pressures too. You know, all kinds of guys on that front 7, they were contributing. But you know, just a great game. And I know it was a defensive battle. And in today's day and age, everyone likes the high scoring games and you know, all the stats and this and that. But this was
fair. I spend a year watching a team run an offense that everybody complains. They don't throw the ball enough.
Yeah.
So somewhere in between that, I get what you're saying.
True. But you know, this was just a great game. The physicality from both sides, you know, we had talked about, you know, Paulding being one of the top physical teams. Fairview was right up there too. The last couple of weeks, you know, really made a difference. I think what we saw out of the Apaches, we saw them play Tenora, saw them play Paulding, and their you know, physicality had definitely stepped up as well. There was one play where I believe Jordan Mans ran a route, some kind of, you know, broke down. It ended up turning into like a crossing route. and he had the ball in his hands, and Elijah Aaron at defensive back comes around and smokes him in the back, and it ended up being an incomplete pass. And it's on actually one of those highlight videos I posted, but absolutely incredible game. We had said it too. It's unfortunate that a team had to lose this game because both clubs are great football teams. They're coached very well, but I wouldn't have expected much less on Friday night. This game came down to the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. Fairview had an opportunity to win it. Fairview did a little bit of a play action, faked a handoff, rolled out to the right, and right away he was pressured by Paulding and wasn't able to get the pass off. So incredible game, and part two lived up to all the hype for sure.
I don't think there was an empty seat by 6:20 in that place.
No,
Logan.
that place was filled up, and it's filled up quick. And just one last thing, I just wanted to say, the hospitality at Paulding was great. We had talked to the AD
was great.
She
everybody
was awesome.
there was great.
Andy Mead, and excited, for everything that she did, and again with all the fans, we talked to so many different fans on Friday night, and
some of them were even happy.
Some of them were happy, even from Paulding, and we do give Paulding.
I meant that they were happy with you.
Yeah, but we did hear it at the end, though. I don't know with Paulding, some of them love us and some of us hate us, but we in the end we do talk good things about Paulding. I don't know where the stigma comes that we have this hatred towards Paulding, but
thankfully you can go back and watch and find out.
Yeah, right. All the podcasts. So the only thing we had talked about was playing the weaker strength of schedule, and we had always said until they win the big games, then we'd give them some more credit, and they definitely have. So excited to see what Paulding's doing. We got to talk to Coach Menzie last week, and great guy, great coach, and he's definitely a right fit for that Paulding job. So I'm excited to see what they do this coming week. All right, we're on to Oak Harbor and Liberty Center. The 9 seed Oak Harbor traveled to the 1 seed in Liberty Center, where Liberty Center won 56-6 at the half. Liberty was up 35-6. Total offense, Liberty Center had 463 yards, 363 rushing, 100 passing. Oak Harbor had 271 total yards with 152 passing and 120 rushing. Turnovers, Liberty Center had 1 fumble. Oak Harbor had 3 with 2 interceptions and 1 fumble. Liberty Center, some top players. Running back Garrison Cruz, 6 carries, 204 rushing yards, good for 34 yards per carry, 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 receptions for 53 receiving yards. I'm just going to probably say that's got to be probably player of the week already. I mean,
just that's questions
absolutely incredible.
We don't have
I don't
to
think
see
I've
the
ever
list.
seen a stat line like that. Running back Thomas Mohler, 6 carries, 72 rushing yards. Quarterback Caden Kreinbrink, 5 of 10, 100 passing yards. He did have 1 fumble. Running back Baxter Barrett, Ty Jackson, and Drew Silvius all had 1 rushing touchdown. And on the flip side from Oak Harbor, quarterback Braden Porath, 17 of 28, good for 61%, 152 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. He did have 2 interceptions. Running back Blake Nickel, 21 carries for 80 rushing yards, and wide receiver Cooper Schultz had 9 receptions for 83 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. So, guys, thoughts on the Oak Harbor at Liberty Center game?
How do you not just start with the word domination? I had that up as one of the scores that I was looking at the Buckeye St. Mary's game, and I just kind of looked at it and looked at it again. I think that just kicked off. No. The score indicates that can't be possible. Oh, no, wait. No, okay. All right. Now it's 35-6 at the half, and I guess the world is correct because LC's just doing things right now that you just don't see a ton. I mean, even the other dominant teams in the state, and I always go back to Marion Local. Marion Local is doing it in a different way right now because they're not going to beat you over the head with one kid having 300 all-purpose yards. It's going to be spread out, but to see that impressive, just the way that they go about things is crazy because teams are, we'll go ahead and stop that kid.
Yeah.
No, he touched the ball, 12 times, and he has over 300 yards.
Incredible.
Go back to the drawing board, find a different game plan.
AJ was sending us. One thing about what we did last week, we didn't actually cover our game per se for Tenor Rams Live. We were just perusing the sidelines, taking in football for the first time in a year. It was fantastic. So you kind of lose track of scores. But AJ was sending us updates, and our game was in the middle of the first quarter, and he's like, it's 28-0.
Yeah.
It's like, what in the world's going on here? But yeah, as Michael said, complete domination by Liberty Center. I mean, especially, come off a bye. Coach Mohler probably didn't know what he's going to get initially, and good Lord, In the first 12 minutes, you're up 28-0. But I mean, AJ was there; he can tell more about it. So.
Yeah, I'll kind of pipe in here for this one. This was wow. I mean, we were at the Tenora Liberty Center game week 1, but I would say this team was watching Liberty Center now versus then. It's not even the same team. They are firing on like more cylinders than we even realized possible at this point. The pure physicality of that team. We've watched Oak Harbor and LC play a couple of times in the past. Yeah. I think the last time we watched them play, we were thinking, man, that quarterback is going to be hurting for days. Yes. I don't know how that quarterback didn't take a stretcher off the field. He got hit so hard so many times, so clean too. It was never dirty or late hit. Yeah. He just had no time. As soon as he got the ball snapped to him, he was pretty much scrambling because you got those guys up front just making the offensive lineman look stupid, just throwing them to the ground, pushing right past them, hitting the quarterback, hitting people down the sideline. The plays that they did have big plays on, the rare occasion, they regretted it. They break one loose down the sideline and try to get that extra step, and they regretted it. I mean, they were launched off their feet into the bench, hit so hard by some of those guys. And the other thing, I want to go to the stats here. You talk about like Thomas Mohler, 6 carries for 72 yards. That's a fantastic stat.
It is. That's what I was going to comment on as well.
10 yards a carry. But it's so overshadowed by Garrison Cruz with 6 carries for 200 yards. I mean, Thomas Mohler is one of the greatest running backs in the area as well. He just, in a game like this, he's kind of overshadowed because by the time they even had a chance to start mixing things up a little bit and who got more carries, the game was already out of hand and freshmen were starting to play at that point.
I mean, if you look at this realistically with, Garrison Cruz and Thomas Mohler, I think Garrison's, the most carries he's probably had in a game is maybe about 20 or so, just the small sample size. And I thought I heard Coach Mohler talk about, kind of keeping almost like a play count on some of the players, to keep them healthy later in the season. And that's terrific that you have a team good enough you're able to do that. You talk about teams like, maybe Paulding or, some of the other smaller schools, where they have 25 to 27 kids, but you come out in your Liberty Center and you're pushing 70, high 60s, 70+ kids. You're able to keep those kids fresh, especially for a deep playoff run.
Definitely.
And, it's exciting to see because, I've always been curious, if Cruz and Mohler, if they had a full sample size, they could easily be, 1,000 to 1,500 yard, both rushers in a year. And that's in the regular season. Yeah. But, they've been very limited on carries, but they do their job. They do it well. They do it efficiently. And, the other thing too, with Liberty Center is I feel like we've barely covered them this year because they've been so dominant.
Nothing to talk about.
And there's really, for the most part, people don't want to hear people talk about, a major blowout, but I'm excited to finally start covering them because, we had said early on, again, it's like we're a broken record. We say every year Liberty Center can't be better. Like literally, we've said it on so many podcasts. Nope. And again, they're showing it right now. And I mean, I think they're destined to make it to the state championship game and have a pretty good shot at a state title. I mean, I'm being honest. I mean, AJ, you saw him in person again. I haven't been able to see him in person, but we've seen all the highlights throughout the year on, plays of the week and everything that they're doing and just pure domination. And, there's no other way to put it. It's
I don't
incredible.
think there's even a highlight reel that really sums up how powerful they were Friday night because you can only put so many plays in a single skit, a single short video. And that doesn't encompass all the stuff going on in the backfield. You got Thomas Mohler just kind of hides out over top. He just kind of hides as a safety and is dangerous at it. He had a pick, almost 2 picks Friday night where he just kind of camped back there. He didn't make a break for the ball right away. He saw the guy running the seam and just kind of let it go. They threw the ball deep, and, man, he broke on that ball and was there immediately, picked it off. The one time, the second time, he basically had it in his hands, but it was kind of jumbled together with the other guy and ended up dropping it. But he could have had 2 picks there easily. And, you don't see that kind of stuff much at all. And that's the stuff that, watching it in person, I was like, wow, this is a very dangerous team. And unfortunately, we're going to kind of talk about the hot takes a little bit. They're going to have one of the toughest matchups they'll have all season Friday night. And there was a lot of talk that could potentially be for the state title. Whoever comes down on Friday night could very well end up going into the state and possibly winning it all.
All right. Well, AJ did a pretty good job summing that up. I was going to say, that's why it's nice.
On-site reporter, right?
That's why it's nice. We do kind of split up at times. It stinks, because we're not together as a group, but, able to provide a little bit better analysis on the game. And, it's definitely different when you're there in person for sure. I mean, you take in everything, even the things off the field, fan interaction, and you just kind of get a good feel for both, football teams and the whole game in general. So, but nonetheless, I'm excited to, cover Liberty Center more now that they're in the playoffs. And again, they're going to make a deep run. That's for sure. All right, we're on to the next game. The 5-seed Gibsonburg traveled to the 4-seed Columbus Grove, where the Bulldogs won 28-8 at the half. Grove was up 21-0. Total offense to Columbus Grove had 267 yards, 192 rushing with 75 passing. Gibsonburg had 233 yards, 205 rushing with 28 passing. Turnovers, Columbus Grove had 0. Gibsonburg had 1 interception. Some top players from Columbus Grove: quarterback Landon Best, 10 of 14, 71%. 75 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. He also had 9 carries for 38 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Wide receiver Trevin Baxter, 5 receptions, 29 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown. Running back Brody McClure, nice game for him, 12 carries, 102 rushing yards. And Gavin Barraza had 2 rushing touchdowns. Top player from Gibsonburg, running back Grant Smith, had 20 carries for 134 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So, Mike, do you want to kick this one off first?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I talk to Andy Schaefer pretty often, and we have some fun conversations, some of which I can even recant. But one thing that he and I was fascinated to figure out what he thought of was there's a lot of talk going into that game of, well, how's Grove going to be able to stop this running game? This running game is going to keep coming at him, going to keep coming at him. It's like a Liberty Center or a St. Mary's where they don't really want to have to throw the ball. They just want to line up and run over you. Well, that second half was, I think Grove was up, so they were just kind of, okay, you got a little more here, a little more there. And if your playoff season, your season's on the line, you're going to fight harder. Gibsonburg did that, but Grove is amazing to me because I really think, as much as you guys have talked about him and as much as I've talked to him, that Andy Schaefer is a coach that maybe doesn't get enough credit. As weird as that is to say, because of the talk every year. This was supposed to be the year Grove was down. They start 0-3. A bunch of people throw them off the bus. Nope. Maybe we're not going to talk to you in the playoffs. Maybe you're not going to win your league. They go out and they just smack people. And this is, to me, it typifies how Andy is and how the Grove theory is of, we don't really care. Yeah, we're breaking all these records. And by the way, shout out to Ned Steckschulte.
Yeah, he does a terrific job.
Amazing, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
I read things from him where I'm like, I never would have remotely come up with
I wish every school had a Nate, half a Nate, a quarter of Nate would be great.
That dude's amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
But, they just continue to do things. I mean, you even look at Brody McClure. You go back in the start of the year, how many people do you think we're talking about Brody McClure? They're talking about him right now.
Right.
Because he had 100 yards in a state playoff game. So I love Grove because I love how I've seen the kids in multiple sports. They just come at you. Oh, you're not going to win. You're gonna lose to Marion. You're going to lose to all these teams. Yeah, we don't really care. We're going to give everything we can. And, oh, by the way, we're not losing at Clymer. Come on now. Like, that's just not a thing. They don't accept it. It's not going to happen.
It's funny you mentioned, with, the doubts about Columbus Grove at the beginning of the year. And believe me, so we do the power rankings and,
that's my favorite.
And you would not believe how many people had commented, why is Columbus Grove even hovering around the top 10 and they're 0-3? And it's like, people don't understand, the quality of opponents they played and the situations that happen. And they don't understand, what this program is built on and the players and the coaches. And oh my gosh, the amount of people that question, calling us idiots because we have Columbus Grove, hovering around top 10, even though they're 0-3, and they could not understand that. But here they are,
Well, and the PG game kind of slipped away. I was there in week 1. That was something. And then obviously we just talked a little bit about Liberty Benton. They're pretty good. And that 0-3 start was, do we just throw everything out? No, just stay the course and just watch this. Because like you said, it's not like they were playing schlubs in the first 3 weeks.
Right.
These are teams that are all still playing.
Yes.
They are, yeah.
Except for PH, I think.
But still,
yeah, they made the playoffs.
They were
but
projected
still.
to make a deep run and, solid team as well.
Carry team, right. Yeah, I mean, Michael pretty much summed everything up with this. But yeah, Columbus Grove, they got a 9-game winning streak now.
Ever since week 3.
Landon Best is back playing fantastic. And, last year, even in previous years, you'd have, not to say that Grove was one-dimensional, but you have like a once in a generational running back in Trent Barraza. you kind of know on defense where the ball's going. I mean, you may not officially know. You still got to make the play.
Sure.
But I think this year, Columbus Grove's a little more diversified. You know, Bess is back, obviously healthy, helps out a lot. Baxter's having a hell of a year. And as Mike pointed out, Brody McClure, you know, he's no slouch himself. So
it was also Christmas in week 10. Contractually,
right.
That out. The only thing I didn't like was week 4 when they started their winning streak. They did it against Spencerville. I wasn't, and I told Andy I wasn't a big fan of that. I said you should win, not that you should beat them 48-0.
Yep. Yeah, another big rematch coming up versus LCC. So we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it perfectly about this game, and you know, again, Grove just continues to roll. And historically, one of the teams that they always catch fire at the right time at the end of the season, and they were playing their best football, and they really are. And it's good to see guys like running back Brody McClure step up. Maybe at the beginning of the year, just kind of getting his feet wet. After last year, Trent Barraza had 90+% of the carries, so for him to start off the season a little bit fresh, and he's really developed over the stretch in the back half of the season. So like Keith said, to be multidimensional in the playoffs, and that's a big conversation. Actually, I believe we'll bring it up later in the podcast, just how it pays off for you in the long run, especially playing top quality opponents. And I mean, you can run the football all day long, but you still got to be able to pass it every now and then and be efficient, and vice versa too. But if you can have that multi approach to your offensive scheme, and I mean, good things will happen. And
also,
Columbus Grove's
shout out
got
to
that.
their coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
They're great dudes. Just don't anybody tell them I said it. I love their offensive coordinator. I may have been old enough that I'm not giving him a flat out shout out though. He knows. He's good enough that I was also old enough to have covered him in high school.
Hey, I'll give Coach Roney and Coach Coles a shout out. I always appreciate that.
I'm not saying either one of their names.
They're
doing a good enough job. They don't need a bigger head. They need to focus.
But anyhow, just like we said earlier too, I always give a shout out, and I'll probably put it on social media too, to all the statisticians, with Ned, and the list goes on and on from everyone in the area. That makes our job possible because if we're not having quality stats and they're not sending them in promptly to, we can't provide coverage, and so their job is just as important as anyone else, and they do a terrific job.
I can never figure out who the MVP is, Ned, or I have a guy named Andy Rammel who does St. Mary's stats that I don't even have to think of anything. I get a text with a list of things. I'm like, oh, God bless you.
That's great.
The less I can think before I have to say something stupid,
All right, we'll keep things rolling here. We got a couple more games. The 6-seed Seneca East traveled to the 3-seed Archbold. Archbold ended up winning 44-12 at the half. The Blue Streaks were up 30-6. Total offense for the game: Archbold had 427 yards, 238 passing with 189 rushing. Seneca East had 360 yards, 281 passing with 79 rushing. Turnovers for the game: Archbold had 0, played a clean game. Seneca East had 2 with 1 fumble and 1 interception. Some top players from Archbold: quarterback Maddox Pinter. Again, I've been really high on this kid all year long, just a sophomore, but man, he is really playing into his own, especially late and against some top teams. 15-22, 68%, 221 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Running back Ryder Ryan had a great game as well. 16 carries, 150 rushing yards, good for 9.4 yards a carry, and also had 3 rushing touchdowns. Wide receiver Arnger Krieger, 5 receptions, 111 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown. Wide receiver Colin Short had 3 receptions for 20 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. And wide receiver Morgan Harris, 4 receptions, 84 receiving yards. Seneca East, some top players: quarterback Nicholas Parks, 18-33, good for 55%, 281 passing yards. He had 1 passing touchdown, but he did have an interception. 11 carries for 39 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. And wide receiver Ethan Schultz, 2 receptions for 21 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. So, guys, thoughts on the Seneca East and Archbold game?
I mean, for me, I think we all thought Archbold would win, but just by the margin of victory and the domination, I think is more of a surprise to me. And outside of one game this year versus Liberty Center, I mean, Archbold, they're just rolling along offensively and defensively. They're one of those teams that you just can't take one guy out of the offense. You take Ryder Ryan out of the offense, guess what? You got Pinner. He's going to throw it to Krieger, Short, and Harris. Archbold is going to be a tough out. I mean, we'll see what happens this coming Friday. But Coach Dominic has his streaks playing well. One of the better offensive teams around. Yeah, actually.
Complete, and a guy not mentioned, Anderson Bentley, H-back.
Oh boy,
they utilize him quite a bit. With different screens. So He plays really well in that offense, and not only can he contribute, receiving the ball, but he also does a great job blocking. And
he's a menace on defense.
He is. He does a great job at all over the field. But coming into this game too, there was a fair amount of talk that Seneca East could upset Archbold, and I don't know if people were thinking they knew something that we didn't know, but Archbold's a pretty complete team, especially when they stood toe for toe with Liberty Center in the first half just a couple of weeks ago. The Blue Streaks are the real deal, and again, I had them picked to come out of this region, so they're still playing some great football. But the Blue Streaks roll, and it's kind of hard to stop. Again, another very multiple offense. Ryder Ryan at running back is doing Ryder Ryan things, and then the receiving core. I think Morgan Harris tends to get a lot more of the attention, being 6'3" and hard to cover, and he can run too. But if you bracket him or help out, then you got Aranger Krieger, and who's another excellent receiver who can get the job done. And then you got guys like Colin Short kind of stepping up, in the slot as well too. So excellent game out of the Blue Streaks, and they continue to win.
So I have St. Henry this week, and they have Cedarville at home. And I was talking to Josh Werling, the head coach at St. Henry, and I asked him a little bit, who does Cedarville remind you of? And he said, maybe what they want to do is maybe they remind me of Archbold and how they want to attack. He's like, Archbold is just a flat-out monster. And he said, we learned so much from that game in week number 2. So it really doesn't surprise me, given the amount of praise that he heaped on them, kind of what they're doing right now, because he thinks the world of them, and he's a pretty smart guy.
That means a lot to St. Henry is pretty darn good. And honestly, I've said a couple weeks ago, and I know you probably won't comment on it, but I said, I don't know. I think St. Henry has a shot at maybe upsetting Marion Local if they get to that point. We'll see, but
you're not going to be allowed at the Corner Cafe in Maria Stein.
But we'll see. Two great teams, and hopefully we see that matchup again. That'll be exciting. All right, next game, the 6-seed Mohawk traveled to the 3-seed Leipsic, where Leipsic won 36-7 at the half. The Vikings were up 14-7. Total offense, Leipsic had 450 yards of total offense, 232 passing, 218 rushing. Mohawk had 235, 184 passing, 51 rushing. Turnovers, Leipsic had 0. Mohawk had 1 interception. Some top players from Leipsic, quarterback Mark Kirkendall, 15-26, good for 58%, 232 passing yards with 3 passing touchdowns. Also had 11 carries for 60 rushing yards. Running back Marquise Williams, 6 carries, 101 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. 4 receptions for 62 receiving yards. Wide receiver Avery Paris, 6 receptions, 78 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown. And he also added a 45-yard punt return for a touchdown with 7:50 to go in the second quarter. And wide receiver Aaron Hazelton, 4 receptions, 82 receiving yards with 2 receiving touchdowns. On Mohawk's side, quarterback Andon Klaus, 11-24, good for 184 passing yards, 1 interception, 14 carries for 14 rushing yards. Wide receiver Levi TL, 5 receptions, 102 receiving yards, and there was a block punt for a touchdown with 56 seconds to go in the second quarter, returned by Aiden Petrazi. So, guys, thoughts on the Leipsic and Mohawk game?
It kind of surprised me. Fantastic 50 had this game as a 5-point game, and I'm probably not going to be allowed anywhere within the Sycamore limits, but I just didn't see it. The way Leipsic plays, you look at the balance, they had almost a 1-for-1 pass and rush. I mean, of 450 yards, that's insane. But I don't think it's their defense that people are talking enough about. You have all
that's a good point.
The big weapons. You talk about Kirkendall and Williams and Paris, and you should, because if you can't figure those 3 guys out, all of a sudden Aaron Hazelton's running past you, and he's going to get a touchdown. But their defense has been just lights out. And I talked to who I consider one of the best football minds in Chase Detro, who does a lot of games, and he'll be doing PG and Leipsic this weekend. And, he told me earlier on, he said, this is a team that maybe people are looking, and they're looking at Grove or PG, and they should be, because these are a lot of great teams. But Leipsic is over here just going, that's fine. Don't talk about us. You want to talk about LB. You want to talk about whoever. Okay, cool. We'll see you guys in November. And they've proven that.
Yeah, I feel like that's been the story all season long. Leipsic just tends to get overshadowed by a lot of these other programs. But, in all reality, I mean, Leipsic is...
It's almost better for them.
Yeah, honestly, kind of behind the scenes, and they are playing great football. But I like the point you brought up about their defense, I feel like we have talked about their offense all year long. And, and for the most part, typically for our podcast, we do talk about the offense because we don't always get defensive statistics all the time. But, I mean, if your defense shuts a team out just down to 7 points in a game.
In reality, the defense didn't give up anything. because it was a block punt.
That's true too. Yeah.
So you held them to 235, a team that's been able to move the ball all year. You held them to 235 yards, and they didn't score on you.
That's very true too. Yeah, great point.
Yeah, the only point I have is what Mike kind of brought up was I like to see the season stats on Leipsic offense, like run to pass ratio, because it seems to me just eyeballing every single week, it's got to be close to 50-50.
I would think so.
So which is when you have this much talent on your offensive side, if you can do 55-45 run pass, that's good. But Leipsic and Coach Kirkendall seem to be pretty close to 50-50. So, but as Mike said, yeah, the Vikings are rolling, and it's good to see. So.
And then we have one last game for our game recaps. Just wanted to touch on this one because it was our NWO Sports Radio broadcast game of the week from last week. So be sure to tune in each week on our Network One Sports internet radio page or YouTube if available to tune in. But last week it was the 6-seed Perkins, the rematch from last year, traveling to the 3-seed Napoleon, where Perkins won 31-0. At the half, Perkins was up 24-0. Total offense, Perkins had 359 yards, 216 passing, 143 rushing. Napoleon had 165 yards, 90 rushing with 75 passing. Turnovers, Perkins had 0. Napoleon had 4 turnovers with 3 interceptions and 1 fumble. Top players for Napoleon, Hayden Grohl, 11 carries for 55 rushing yards. Wide receiver Paul Saucer, 5 receptions for 41 receiving yards. For Perkins, quarterback Sam Swinefirth, 10 of 13, good for 77%. 216 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. Running back Braxton Martin, 8 carries, 28 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. And wide receiver Blake Parker, 7 carries for 172 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So, guys, thoughts on the Perkins and Napoleon game? And honestly, I had Napoleon picked.
I think we all did.
I don't know if maybe the bye week had affected them a little bit as well, too. But going into this game, Fantastic 50 and some other outlets had Perkins, I believe, a 16-point favorite.
Yeah, pretty heavy favorite.
Yeah, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, we probably all pick with our heart more than our head, which we do sometimes. Local teams, obviously, that we cover, you probably pick those over teams you don't see a lot and you don't know their dominant factors. But I guess for me on this game, if you could see the stats after the game without knowing the score, would probably, for me, would give me a better indication. Like if I just saw the stats without the score and I see Napoleon with 90 yards rushing, I was like, there's no way in heck they won this game, because that's how they dominated all year was with the 2 running backs and Grohl and Eggers. But Napoleon had a heck of a season. They just ran into a better team last Friday night. So, congratulations to Perkins as they move on. So.
I'm just saying, I'm not here to say I picked the opposite, but the reason why I went with Perkins was I saw them a couple of years ago when St. Mary's was in Division IV for a couple of years, and I saw the young guys that are now producing as the older guys and thought, this is a team that is going to be nasty. They start out, they lose a heartbreaker to Clear Fork, they turn around and go on a winning streak. This is a team that started 1-3, and a lot of people kind of jumped off that bandwagon. But they go out and they dominate Bellevue, beat Clyde. There's something. And they're picked to win by 2 against the Galleon squad this weekend that I saw in person in week number 1. They are fast. I think this is a game, honestly, that could end up 45-40. Oh, wow. It could also easily go 10-7 because their defenses are playing well, but it's their offenses that have been driving it lately. And Galleon runs a lot of slip screens and a lot of reverses and a lot of jet sweep motion that are problems with people, but it's also kind of the same things that Perkins have done to people over the years. So for me, that's one of the most interesting games, but I think it was just the maturation of Perkins at the right time that kind of why I kind of thought they'd probably win that game last week. Not by what they did, mind you, because they were favored by 17. Yeah. They won by 31, but just like you talked about earlier, perfect timing.
Yep. I guess I thought coming into this game, Napoleon, they were running a hot streak, similar to almost what Grove was. They're playing great football. The 1-2 punch with Grohl and Eggers was what appeared to be unstoppable throughout, basically outside the first couple of games. But, just Perkins, I would have loved to see this game in person, see, what they did in terms of defensive game planning and, just shutting down that run attack from Napoleon. But that's the one thing with Napoleon, and I think everyone and their brother knew, is they're a one-headed monster on offense, and if you shut down the run game, they may have a little bit of problems, and I think that's what they ran into, unfortunately, on Friday night. But overall, great season for things starting out for Napoleon.
Considering all the graduations they had last year,
they lost
Logan,
a lot of
that was
talent
a
last
lot
year.
of
I don't think really. Coming into the season, I think all the outsiders per se weren't expecting much from the Wildcats, but especially, when they dropped the first game to the rival Defiance in a tough loss where they had an opportunity to win it on 2-point conversion. Obviously, I'm sure team wasn't in a great place, but they rallied and they finished strong in the second half and were able to make their way into the playoffs. And at the end of the night, it gets tough in the playoffs, and not everyone can win them all. So overall, great season from Napoleon, and we'll see what they bring to the table next year. All right, that concludes our game recaps. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors and be right back with Play of the Week, sponsored by Titan Sports. ESN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, you're always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. Looking for a personalized financial guidance right here in Bryan, Ohio? Meet Melissa R. Stockman, CHFC, a trusted Edward Jones financial advisor. Melissa specializes in retirement savings and income strategies, estate and legacy planning, customizable wealth strategies, insurance and annuities, and support for entrepreneurs and business owners. As a chartered financial consultant, she brings deep expertise and care in building financial plans tailored to your goals. Ready to take your next financial step? Call Melissa's office at 419-633-0647 or visit Edward Jones on 130 North Main Street, Bryan, to get started. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning programs. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. DeLarber Concrete and Hauling is your go-to provider for concrete and hauling needs. Flat work, pole barn floors, driveways, and patios. Hauling services for stone, mulch, and dirt. Call Josh for your free estimate at 419-576-0401. Fitzenreiter HVAC, keeping Northwest Ohio comfortable since 1955. Whether it's scorching summer heat or bitter winter cold, Fitzenreiter has your back with expert heating, cooling, and indoor air quality solutions for your residential and commercial needs. Need fast, reliable service? Call the local pros you can trust. Fitzenreiter HVAC. Give them a call today at 419-784-0828 or visit fitzenreiterhvac.com for more info. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we're on to Play of the Week, sponsored by Titan Sports. So be sure to submit your play each week. And Titan Sports offers revolutionary wearable GPS technology for high school football and strength and conditioning programs, giving you all the metrics to get the most out of every athlete. So we thank them again for sponsoring this segment. This week, we had a handful of great plays sent in. So we're going to take a look at some of the great honorable mention plays from the Northwest Ohio area. Check those out right now. As I always say, there can only be one. This week's Titan Sports Play of the Week will go to the Paulding Panthers defense, led by defensive end Easton Lehman, applying pressure off the edge for the quarterback. So check that play out right now.
Formation here for the Apaches. Now they're going to motion everybody over. Zedike takes the snap, fakes the handoff. He's dropping back. Lehman's after him. He floats it up in the air. Batted down, incomplete. It was nearly caught.
You guys just got done watching the play. This play pretty much sums up the pressure that Paulding put on Fairview all night long. You know, they brought blitzes, defensive line stunts, just great overall pass rush from a lot of the Panthers front seven as well. So this was just a nice job by Easton, not biting on the fake during the play. Fairview's play action. You know, he pursues the quarterback to cause a hurry, and Will Zedike's not even able to get a clean pass off. that could have potentially won the game for Fairview. So nice job by Coach Menzie. And again, I gave him a shout out earlier. Co-defensive coordinators Logan Doster and Jarrett Sitton for the great defensive game plan on Friday night. So you guys had witnessed the play as well. So what were your thoughts on the play by the Paulding Panthers?
For me, I mean, the play fake is designed just to freeze the defense for a split second, just enough to get your wide receiver or running back, whatever, out in the open to give them a chance. But Paulding read that play like they had the play in front of them, and fantastic pursuit, and that was the play that won the game for him. So
I was impressed by how much everybody else dominates on that play to let one guy be able to go freelance, knowing that if he doesn't get there, bad things are going to happen. But you watch the other 10 guys on that play just kind of dominate their individual matchups.
Yep.
Because, you get a runner out there, he's got to do something, because if you miss, you're going to miss big. And I credit the rest of those kids for being able to put him in a position to where they could do that.
Yep. Yeah, just overall great defensive play. And again, led by Easton Lehman, but the Paulding Panthers defense was solid on Friday night, and that helped them win this low-scoring ball game. So congratulations again to the Titan Sports Play of the Week, going to the Paulding Panthers, and led by Easton Lehman, putting the pressure on Fairview's quarterback. All right, we're on to Player of the Week from Week 12, and we thank BSN Sports for sponsoring. We got a list of, a handful of kids, but, that list gets smaller and smaller as the playoffs come. So we'll read through the list, and then we're just going to go right into who Player of the Week was, because we only have a small list of about 5 of them. So first one is Liberty Center running back Garrison Cruz, Archbold quarterback Maddox Pinter, Archbold running back Ryder Ryan, Leipsic quarterback Mark Kirkendall, and Leipsic wide receiver Avery Paris. And I had mentioned it earlier in the podcast. I think it's hands down. It's got to go to this kid. He's going to be a 2-timer for the BSN Sports Player of the Week, and that is going to none other than Liberty Center running back Garrison Cruz. 6 carries, 204 rushing yards, averaging 34 yards per carry. And mind you, this is in a playoff game as well. 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 receptions for 53 receiving yards. Did everything on Friday night. And like AJ said, he was there as well. And just, it's amazing to watch him run the football. And I'm excited. We get to the point we go to a Liberty Center game coming up, because, this kid is just a beast. And there's a reason why he's getting some big-time college offers as well.
Definitely.
All right. So again, Player of the Week will receive NWO Sports gear courtesy of BSN Sports. So we thank sales rep Jim Garris and Rob Held for the great support of our coverage for athletics in Northwest Ohio. All right, we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with everyone's favorite, the Hot Takes, presented by BSN Sports.
Under the lights this Friday night. While your team is taking hits on the field, who's got your back off the field? At Batt & Stevens Body Shop in Defiance, we tackle the toughest repairs, from fender benders to full collision restoration. Our iCar Gold Class team scores big on quality and service. Proudly serving Defiance County for over 40 years, with certified technicians, advanced diagnostics, and lifetime warranties. We work with all major insurance providers. Batt & Stevens Body Shop, the home team when your car takes a hit. Visit us at batandstevens.com or call 419-497-3111. Nestled in the heart of Sherwood, Ohio, Crystal Fountain Park invites you to say I do, in a place where history whispers around every corner. Surrounded by 28 acres of woods, meadows, illuminated trails, outdoor chapels, a tranquil reflection pond, and fire pit lounges. Whether planning a wedding, rehearsal dinner, or elegant gathering, Crystal Fountain Park blends historic elegance with modern flexibility and heartfelt service. Visit crystalfountainpark.com or call 419-576-1910 today to book your unforgettable moment.
RE/MAX Realty of Defiance has represented Defiance County for nearly 40 years. Located at 1401 South Jefferson Avenue in Defiance, we have 13 agents ready and available to assist you in home buying or selling needs. You can check out all the listings at www.remax419.com or call us at 419-784-3029. Let our years of experience go to work for you. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer.
Experience award-winning care at Defiance Chiropractic Center, voted first place in the Crescent News Reader's Choice Awards Best of the Region. We offer chiropractic adjustments, acupuncture, DOT and sports physicals, and personalized wellness plans. Located at 1770 Jefferson Avenue in Defiance. Call 419-784-2300 today and feel your best naturally.
Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube, and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on tenorarams.com.
Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well.
We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to the hot takes presented by BSN Sports. So again, these are fan submitted, and at the end of the year, we've talked about a lot throughout the season, so our list kind of dwindles down a little bit more. Just one really good hot take this week. We've got a handful of buy or sells, which we'll have fun with that. So the hot take that was sent in was the OHSAA playoff format, particularly the regional breakdowns, hurts Northwest Ohio teams. Many fantastic teams from this region get pitted against each other too early on, while other regions get to coast to week 13 and 14. It's a fair point. I mean, there's a lot of good football in Northwest Ohio, and it's always interesting to see how the regions play out. But is there a good answer to this question? I know there's always that proposed question of getting rid of regions, but in all reality, I mean, if you don't have regions, then you're going to have games played 2, 3, 4 plus travel hours just one way even. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, just as a for instance, depending on what you believe Northwest Ohio is, it kind of changes the phrasing of this a little bit. So again, St. Mary's, who I do all year, is in Division III, Region 10. Their conference is represented by Shawnee, Wapak, and Salina are all in that division. It used to be that D3 Region 10 used to be an I-75 corridor. You would have teams from Cincinnati or Toledo. You'd have Toledo Central Catholic, or you would be down and you would have Trotwood Madison. Okay. Now it's an I-71 in Route 30. So as a for instance, I figured this out. St. Mary's, had they been able to win the whole thing, would have played 4 of their 6 games in Northeast Ohio.
I think that's
Medina, Rocky River. Yeah. They would have had to go last week. They would have had to go to Akron to play Copley, but thank God Akron Ellet won a Saturday overtime playoff game to keep that from happening. And then the ultimate goal being going back to Northeast Ohio in Week 16. But that to me kind of encapsulates how insane the whole thing is. The only game they would have played close to home, I'm going to guess in Lima, would have been potentially the winner of Wapak and Toledo Central Catholic. Oh, that's a heck of a consolation prize. So I can see where this would be a problem, but I think the bigger schools, it ends up being a problem because, for instance, if you look at Liberty Center, they have the possibility of they will take on somebody like Wheelersburg or Indian Lake or one of those teams. There's just, unfortunately, it's worse in other sports because like soccer and baseball, with Perrysburg and Columbus Grove, and there's not really a way to do it. It just kind of is. And soccer and girls basketball are the worst with Perrysburg and Anthony Wayne, for instance. They don't have anybody to play, so they have to go to Northeast Ohio. I get their point. I just don't know how you change it.
That's what I mean. I don't know that there's a good answer because, in a sense, you are limited to how many schools based on the size, but I like the point you brought up of, St. Mary's traveling out east because a couple of years ago, was it Bryan or even Delta?
Yeah, Defiance has to go to Bay every year.
They have to travel. Yep. I can't remember if it was Bryan or Delta. But
Bryan had 3.5, 4 hours.
It was almost
a
a 4-hour one-way trip out east to play someone in, I think, like a second, first round matchup in the football playoffs just a handful of years ago.
Well, even Whitmer and Findlay and Perrysburg, they're all in a Northeast Ohio region in Division I. There's not really anything you can do about it, though, because we just don't have that amount of schools.
Or do you condense down divisions again? I mean, does that take care of the? Essentially,
I think that's a 3-hour tour conversation because there's not really.
That's
given how basketball and everything else is playing out with these new regions and eventually super regions. I don't think there's going to be any condensing. I think you maybe just get up to 12.
But I mean, even if you condense down, those schools, there could still be schools all over in that region. So I don't know. I don't think there is a good answer for it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're going to end up playing, teams. Unfortunately, that are really, really good in the area. And it's unfortunate because, multiple teams don't get out, to the state Final Four. But, that's just the reality of what it is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is just one thing that I don't think there's a great answer to.
I don't think there's a great answer. I mean, we traveled to Highland a few years ago in the first round when Snort played Highland. And what was that, 2.5-hour drive? That was, I think, the first round matchup back then. But, Napoleon, Defiance, Bryan, all of those teams have made that 3.5-hour tour in the last 3-4 years. I mean, really, I don't think you can do anything better than what we have now. What do you take the state and divide it in quarters and go from there? I mean, is that the right answer? I mean, you don't really have enough. I mean, Division I teams probably, East and South, but like, I don't know. I don't think there's really a correct answer. And I think moving from 16 to 12 teams is a start. So,
and I know we kind of spun off and went more of like regional breakdown in terms of like geographic and traveling, but I mean, kind of going back to the, great teams being pitted against each other. Yeah, I think that's just the reality. That's the nature of the beast. I mean, some years you'll have really good regions, some years you'll have really bad. But the spinoff of this, I will say, how does the state pair up state Final Four teams? Because
it's supposed to be geography.
Sometimes I wish maybe that would change a little bit, because I feel like every single year, whether it be Columbus Grove gets paired up with Marion Local in the state semifinal, and I'd love to see that. Obviously last year it was a different story.
Coldwater and Columbus Grove,
right,
when they played in Sydney.
But I would love to see two teams like that play in a state championship rather than state semifinal. But
then you open the door to everybody saying, "Well, why are we playing this game in Northeast Ohio when we could play it in Columbus?" All right, no one's ever going to be happy,
right? Yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, I don't think there's any right answer, and you're never making anyone happy. But it does create a good conversation piece for the regional layout. And again, I think this question's probably going on all the time from fans and the OHSA and everyone and their brother about
and
this.
And every local watering hole.
Yeah. Which this would be not this conversation right here to have, but you break it down by regions, and then you got say you go back to the neutral site, then you got my team has to travel 2 hours while this team has to travel 45 minutes. This isn't right. So, which we'll see that next week when we have the new brackets released for the host sites. But I don't know.
And you'll have a handful of venues that are slam dunks that won't host because their team is still in the playoffs.
That's true. Yep.
And you'll say that's equidistant.
Right.
Just as, for instance, if Wapak beats Toledo Central Catholic this weekend, they're likely not going to host something next week, and that would take out probably a MAC team that would normally play there.
That's
that's got to go to Sydney or Piqua.
That's a huge playoff site in this part of the state. So, it does propose that question as well, too. So, a lot to think about. So, if you guys have any thoughts or comments, be sure to, comment or message us, because we always love to hear back from the fans and, players and coaches. So, all right, we're on to the buy or sell. So, again, similar to the hot takes, but I will list the statement. And we have one of two options. We can buy and agree, or we can sell and disagree. And we just give a little bit of maybe our point or our take on the topic. It's meant to be a little bit more fun and fast paced. So we have a lot of fun with this too. So, all right, we'll kick things off. The first buy or sell, Garrison Cruz, running back for Liberty Center, will rush for 200 plus on Friday night against Liberty Benton. Just a little bit of insight. Over the last 3 games, 35 carries, 538 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, is averaging 179 yards a game over the last 3. Is this the game that Liberty Center unleashes the beast in Garrison Cruz? Keith, you buying or selling?
I'm going to buy that one, Logan.
Are you buying?
Buying that. Well, I'm buying on the fact of I think this game will be under a running clock, so Garrison Cruz will get the carries to get the 200 yards. So you got him and Mohler, splitting the carries, but I think they'll probably play close to 4 quarters. So he's going to get the carries. They'll try to run the clock down. So I'm buying the 200 yards.
See, I'm torn on this because I live in Liberty Township, so I'm not trying to have these people with their pitchforks come to my house. But, man, I'm torn because regular season Liberty Benton gives up 332 total rushing yards. However, they've got some kids who are banged up right now, and they didn't face a rushing offense like they're going to face this weekend. I mean, you could talk about Columbus Grove. It was earlier on in the year. Might be overall the best rushing offense they took on. Arlington, PG, Leipsic, they all want to throw the ball. They have a lot of teams with finesse. I feel like I want to sell it, but it's one of those things where if he gets 10 carries, it wouldn't surprise me if he does it, but I feel like it'll be just on the south side of that.
Very good points. For myself, I am buying that. I am buying it 100% because, again, you made some very good points, and we'll get into our projections later for the game, but I don't think Liberty Benton has seen a team like Liberty Center in terms of physicality and running the football and just continuing to run it down your throat the entire game. I don't think they've seen an athlete quite like Garrison Cruz as well either, or an offensive line where you have a 4-star recruit in Kellen Weimer committed to Ohio State along with Hunter Spangler and the rest of the boys on the offensive line. I mean, those are some tough dudes up front manning that offensive line. I think Garrison gets 200 plus. I really do. Especially with Liberty Benton having some kids banged up as well. I think they're in for a rude awakening on Friday night. I really do. I know Liberty Benton is a solid team, but I don't think they've seen anything like they've seen in Liberty Center.
Also, it kind of took something that AJ said earlier on about with having Thomas Mohler. I think Thomas Mohler might be the guy that keeps him from getting that 200 because he has 120.
That's very true.
That's very true, too. But
that's
a good problem to have.
I mean, you look at the average. I mean, last week, if he can do it in 6 carries, I mean, I think he can definitely probably do it in 15 or 20. So we'll see. All right. The next buy or sell. Paulding is set to be a better team next year than they are this year. Just a little bit of insight. This year, they graduate or seniors on the team. Blake Roanhouse, first team GMC, wide receiver, defensive back. Colt Hunt, starting quarterback, second team GMC. Miguel Martinez, first team GMC, offensive guard, second team defensive tackle. Damian Iliff, second team GMC, defensive tackle. And Jackson Griffith, second team GMC tackle and tight end, along with the other seniors as well. Mike, buying or selling?
I mean, I have to buy it because this is only the second time in school history they've ever beaten both teams in their county, and they beat 2 terrific teams. They've done it back-to-back years now, and you're learning about they're continuing to do things that they've never done before. Every program starts somewhere, and this is probably the start of where they're at, of next year, all those kids back and all that knowledge and ways to attack. I think they're going to be even better next year.
They bring back the Mans brothers next year. A couple other key pieces too. Keith,
this is tough. Only because I'm going on statistical history. In 108 years, this is the best Paulding team ever. So I'm going to sell that because you're losing some fantastic talent here. You're losing Blake Roanhouse. I mean, he is a fantastic player, plus all the others. Colt Hunt, all GMC quarterback. Plus side is you do have a lot of experience coming back in the Mans brothers. They're going to be better next year as seniors. Avery Cooper will be back as 2.
Linebacker.
So you're going to have Cooper in the mix as well. But it's hard to be better than the current team because they're breaking all these historical records. So history and stats.
But they were doing a lot of the same things last year, and now they're doing it this year.
Correct.
So.
But you'll be missing these guys right here next year. The leadership, I think, won't be a problem because I think we'll have a couple of the guys step up, Cooper and a couple other ones. But I'm going to sell that next year's team will be better than this year's team.
For myself, I agree with Keith. I'm selling. I mean, this Paulding team is setting the bar so high. Unfortunately, with smaller schools, you do graduate a lot of good talent. Not saying that they're not going to be good next year. I just don't think they're good. I don't think they're going to match this team's performance because, I mean, this is like historical in terms of Paulding football history. And, it's going to be tough to match, So at the end of the day, I'm selling for that one.
I can't wait till I'm the only guy that people get nice responses from Paulding.
That's normal, so.
Next, buy or sell. In the high school football playoffs, in order to push for a state title, if you are a pass/run heavy team, you must at least do the opposite for a minimum of 8 to 10 plays. I'll start with this one. Amen. I'm buying this one. I am a big advocate. I mean, you can be a run-dominant team, a pass-dominant team, but you have to be a little bit balanced when it comes to that because when you get to the playoffs, you're playing the best of the best. And at some point, you're going to run into someone who's going to challenge you, and you may have to deviate away from what your bread and butter is. And if you can at least get 8 to 10, if not more plays of the opposite of what your team is heavy on, whether that be pass or run, I think that just helps you out. And, we've seen it time and time again from many of the teams, around the state of football for high school. So, Mike, you buying or selling?
Well, this goes back to, as someone who covers a team that predominantly runs the ball, who figured out that the forward pass is a thing this year. Shout out to Bo Fry. But I'm torn because I'm going to sell it only because I can think of a handful of teams that have won state titles by only doing one thing because they did it exceptionally well. You can get away with it. You just have to be very, very good, because I've seen teams in the last handful of years. I mean, you think about Cary a handful of years ago when they had Jordan Vallejo, who's a lot smaller now than he was, but they were able to just run the out of the eye, and it's just so many things. I think you have to play extremely good defense to be able to get away with it, but I think you can run the ball and just win games.
Yep.
Keith, you buying or selling?
I'm old school, Logan. You know that. I'm buy. I want to buy that because you need a 50-50 split between run pass in the playoffs. Good old smash mouth running teams like Michael St. Mary's teams. I'm for that right there. So, if you get into the second half and you got to pass, but that's fine, and you get behind, I understand. But at least early on in the first quarter, 2 quarters, even into the third quarter, at least got to be close to 50-50. So,
all right, next buy or sell. If Liberty Center ran a modern offense, they would be terrible. And by that, I'm assuming the spread offense and spreading things out and throwing the football all over the field. I'll start that one. I'm going to sell. They've got enough good athletes. If they were to run a different type of offense, I think they'd still be very successful. They're very well coached. They've got the athletes. There's no reason why they couldn't run something else and still have a lot of success. Would they be as successful? That poses another question. Maybe not, because they are big and physical, and that's what they do best over there in Liberty Center. But I think they'd still have a lot of success. Keith, you buying or selling?
Definitely sell. Number one, that's not actually addressing the subject, but why would you change?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're successful at what you do, why would you change offensive? But, I mean, Coach Mohler and that staff can adapt to any offense that's needed, I think. They're only running the ball because nobody can stop them.
Yeah.
So if they can't stop you, why would you change? I mean, so I'm definitely selling that.
A lot of the same things. Sell, because teams, we talk about Gibsonburg, Liberty Center, St. Mary's, and I can tell you from experience, a handful of years ago, Chris Summers, the highly successful coach at Delphos Jefferson, and later at Spencerville, he's now at Waynesfield Goshen. He came in, and Spencerville ran the wing tee. And then years later, John Zerby before him decided they were going to switch and they were going to go to the spread. Yeah. They lost 30 games in a row. You do what your talent dictates that you can do.
Correct.
Liberty Center is proof positive of that right now. No. I mean, yeah if they had to, but why?
Yep.
All right. That concludes.
I actually wanted to kind of say something about that. One thing that people don't really see much is that Liberty Center can throw the ball. They opened the game against Oak Harbor with the ball. Yep. It's about a 30, 40-yard bomb downfield that was caught by Garrison Cruz, and he stumbled and fell, or else they would have opened the game with a touchdown pass to start. And they've done it a couple times. I mean, that's how they started the season off against Tenora. They had more passing touchdowns than they did rushing. Yep. So if their hand was forced, I think they could change things up, and it very well could happen this year, as they get closer to the state playoff or state title here. Yep.
All right. That concludes our buy or sell. So continue to sell those in. One last little segment before our next guest comes on, but that's in the huddle. So I'll give a scenario and you have a couple options to pick. So this is always kind of fun. We'll see where things go. All right. The scenario for in the huddle. It's the regional championship. The crowd's on its feet, breath hanging in the cold air. Your team's been battling for 4 quarters, bruised, muddy, exhausted. The scoreboard glows under the lights. Home 27, visitors 24. There's 1:12 left on the clock. You've got 1 timeout left. Ball is on the 38-yard line of your opponent. It's 4th and 3. Your quarterback, a junior with a cannon arm but streaky accuracy, just missed a deep shot on 3rd down. Your running back has been steady. He's averaging 4 yards a carry, but the defense has started stacking the box. So you're down in the game. You call your players to the huddle. Helmets tapped together. Everyone's breathing heavy, eyes locked in you, waiting for the call. You've got 3 options. Option 1, you're going to go for it. You're going to dial up your best short yardage play, maybe an RPO or a quick slant. Trust your offense to win the game right here. If you convert, you've got time to spike it and take a shot for the win. If you fail, you're handing the ball over near midfield and likely ending your season. So option 1, going for it. Option 2, kick the long field goal. Your kicker hit 42 yards earlier in the season, but this would be a 55-yarder into a light breeze. It's high risk, but if he nails it, you tie the game and head to overtime. If he misses, the other team can run the clock out. Or option 3, punt and trust your defense. Pin them deep and hope your defense can force a turnover for a quick stop. Conservative, but safe, especially if your defense has been stout late in games. So again, there's 1:12 left on the clock and you're down 3. What are you doing? Keith, are you going for it, kicking the field goal, or punting and trusting your defense? It's 4th and 3.
Option 1, I'm going for it. I'm not taking any chances. I could not get the ball back. So I'm going to use the RPO. I'm going to, in the huddle, I'm saying this is what we worked all year for. This is what we lifted weights for. We need one play. We need 3 yards. Get her done, break, and we'll run the RPO. If I have an opening as a quarterback, I'll just put my head down, dive for the first down. If the defense is coming towards me and I have the option to pitch it left or right, then I would pitch it to my running back, and well, we would get the first down.
Mike, what are you doing?
History has shown that unless they have Van Wert's Jalen McCracken or St. Mary's Brady Triplett this year, that they're not coming anywhere near that field goal. I've seen both of them have makes around 50. I mean, I got to go for it. A lot of the same things Keith said. I'm kind of looking at what that matchup is. You have 2 receivers on each side, your running back. If you're running RPO and maybe try to sneak a receiver across the middle and just kind of hope for the best, because history's shown I'm probably not getting the ball back if the way games play out the way I horribly play Madden. But, I'm going to try it.
And for myself, I got to go for it. Former offensive lineman. I'm telling, again, this is my go-to. We're lining up and we're running that rock. And that's, again, the conversation piece you have in the huddle. You talk to your running back. He's averaging 4 yards a carry. Though they're stacked in the box, if you're an offensive lineman, you can hold on to those blocks. You can get a little bit of movement. He can even fall forward and get just a couple of yards. So I'm pounding that rock dead straight ahead, and we're getting the first down conversion, and we're scoring the football. So, all right, that concludes our In the Huddle segment. So we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with our special guest and head coach of the Liberty Center Tigers, and Casey Mohler. Stay tuned.
Start your day off right at Paulding Pancake House, serving up delicious breakfast, lunch, and dinner from Tuesday through Sunday. It's your go-to spot for home-style meals at any time of day. Swing by and enjoy everything from classic pancakes to hearty lunch and dinner options. There's something for everyone at the Paulding Pancake House. Craving a local favorite? Head to Ensign's Pub, where you'll find the best hot beef sandwiches and famous knockers in town. Whether you're celebrating after the big game or just need a great meal, Ensign's has you covered. Stop by for great food, cold drinks, and good company. Located on 611 Ottawa Avenue in Defiance, open Tuesday through Saturday.
Need a home upgrade? Trust Gamble Home Improvements in Paulding. From kitchens to bathrooms, flooring, and more, quality craftsmanship every time. Call 419-670-8298. Visit gamblehomeimprovements.com or check out their Facebook page today.
DeLarber Concrete and Hauling is your go-to provider for concrete and hauling needs. Flat work, pole barn floors, driveways, and patios. Hauling services for stone, mulch, and dirt. Call Josh for your free estimate at 419-576-0401. RE/MAX Realty of Defiance has represented Defiance County for nearly 40 years. Located at 1401 South Jefferson Avenue in Defiance, we have 13 agents ready and available to assist you in home buying or selling needs. You can check out all the listings at www.remax419.com or call us at 419-784-3029. Let our years of experience go to work for you. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. Experience award-winning care at Defiance Chiropractic Center. Voted first place in the Crescent News Reader's Choice Awards Best of the Region. We offer chiropractic adjustments, acupuncture, DOT and sports physicals, and personalized wellness plans. Located at 1770 Jefferson Avenue in Defiance. Call 419-784-2300 today and feel your best naturally. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on tenorarams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well.
Need a home upgrade? Trust Gamble Home Improvements in Paulding. From kitchens to bathrooms, flooring, and more, quality craftsmanship every time. Call 419-670-8298. Visit gamblehomeimprovements.com or check out their Facebook page today.
Welcome back to the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to our interview with our special guest and head coach of the Liberty Center Tigers, Casey Mohler. So, Coach, we appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, let's get things rolling. You guys are 11-0, and you guys are now a 4-time defending conference champion. let's just get things rolling. What's been the key to keeping your team so consistent year after year?
I think we've got a really good group of kids. We've had several groups back-to-back, senior classes that have been really good. And they work extremely hard, and the classes ahead of them have set a standard that the younger classes try to live up to, and it's just kind of snowballed from there. So it's kind of that standard, and then the hard work and good families, and the community loves football, and that feeds into it as well.
I mean, not only players, but, coaching, your coaching staff. I believe a lot of those guys have been with you for quite a while as well, too. So, I mean, one of probably the best coaching staffs in Northwest Ohio by far.
Yeah. It's a staff that's been around for a long time, and most of them are Liberty guys, and they care about the program. And we've had a couple coaches come in that, maybe didn't grow up in Liberty, but they live there now. And so they're invested in the community, and that's part of it, is that they care about the community, and we don't have a bunch of guys up there trying to build a resume so they can move on somewhere bigger. So that helps.
Now, when you look at this group, and we've said it on the podcast before, it's like every single year it's on repeat. We sound like a broken record. There's no way Liberty Center can be better than last year, and every single year you guys continue to improve. But when you look at this group compared to the last few seasons, what stands out most about the 2025 Tigers identity?
I don't know if anything really stands out above what anybody else did. I think it's just being consistent with who we are. We try to be as physical as we possibly can. And that's kind of our identity, and our kids embrace that, and they love it. And so this group has certainly taken that on, and the team motto our seniors adopted was "It takes more." And as hard as our classes work, they thought, we got to do a little bit more. And so that's what I would say this group has really adopted, that not just a slogan to throw on a T-shirt, but something that they've practiced.
Sure. I'm going to open things up to these guys. We got some questions to ask.
You graduate from LC. You spent a lot of time there as a DC. You take over for Rex. I mean, the first time in 30 years that he's not been the head coach. How much did you take from what that program had become to what you've built now of, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this, but I'm going to tweak it to maybe fit this way?
Well, I think certainly a little bit of that. And I've been obviously blessed to take over a program that didn't need rebuilt. But certainly, in the last few years, I was a defensive coordinator. I was always thinking, what, I might do this if I became the head coach, and maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. And the point we're at now in our program is a little bit of just learning as we went. I thought I was ready to be a head coach, and then you find out you're not. And so you have to learn along the way, and we took some growing pains there, but just kind of keeping the philosophy and the building blocks that Rex had put in place, and just trying to add on to it and touch it up a little bit is all we've done. But the core principles are still there, and they've been there for 40 years now.
Yeah, Casey, you talked about being physical and dominant throughout the years. How do you build that mentality and you sustain it each and every week throughout? Like, you had some long seasons with start to finish to practice. So how do you keep that mentality going for, say, 15, 16 weeks out of the year?
Well, I think the key is you start early in the season, and you constantly reinforce it, talk about it, and this is what we're going to do, and then you've got to practice elements of that. And we have periods in August where we're physical. They're not long. It's not like probably in the 80s and 90s where you would do it for an hour. But for 10 minutes, we're going to get after it.
You'd probably arrested if you did that.
Yeah. Wouldn't last long. But we do it in short bursts. And it kind of keeps kids hungry because they want to keep doing it. And it's like, no, we're done. And so you keep, and it's competitive, and you challenge kids and things like that. And you kind of build it that this is who we are. And we do that as the season goes on with pads. Mm-hmm. And so, we're hitting sleds every week, and we're having races. We have 3 2-man sleds, and we have 3 groups, and we're racing back and forth across the field. And then guys complain that sled's lighter than this one. And so we go across the field, then you switch sleds, and you go back and you switch sleds again, and you just keep rotating through that. So it's the competitiveness and stuff like that. And then at this point in the season, we're not real physical in practice, but I feel like we've built that through the month of August and maybe the first third of the season, and then we start to dial it back. But you can't just say, hey, guys, go out there and be physical, and it's going to happen.
Right.
You have some kids who naturally that's what they do, but as a team, I think you got to build it. We try to do that and being as safe as possible and minimize, your body blows and stuff like that. But it's a lot of work in the preseason to get that mentality and then actually execute it.
Are you out there in the heat doing the sled, showing them how you want it done? Pushing it right up and down the field, I imagine.
I thought I was going to show a kid how to block in May and kind of got out of my stance, and I strained my calf. I couldn't walk for like 3 days. So I thought, oh man, I'm getting old. I can't do that anymore.
Those are things Rex didn't tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't do that one after a little bit.
I got a question for you for the next one. So, obviously you guys have had a very dominant season. How do you keep your team sharp, when you've dominated most of your opponents this season, and maybe not let, maybe a little bit of an ego get, to the kids' heads? Because, they are still, these are anywhere from, 15 to 18-year-old kids. And, I'm sure, maybe it creeps into their head a little bit, like we're just blowing everyone out of the water. How do you keep them focused? Is it more internally driven, for them, or do you have to kind of keep them on track when it comes to that?
That's one of the challenges as a coach. We constantly talk about, we're not preparing to beat a team this week. We're preparing to beat the best teams in Ohio. And you can say that, but to go out and actually prepare that way is hard. It's hard to practice at a really high level week in and week out. So we talk about how we have to prepare it. It's really the Nick Saban focus on the process, not the outcome.
Sure.
And, the outcome will take care of itself if we practice at this level. And we just harp on it all the time. And we talk about, not listening to a lot of the noise. And that, towards the end of the season, we had to remind them, there's going to be a point where we're going to have to our backs are going to be against the wall. It might not be this week, but there's going to be a point where you're going to have to respond to adversity, and you got to be ready for it. And in week 10, that moment came, and we said, we told you this was going to happen. We responded in a pretty good way after halftime, but you just got to keep on them constantly about that stuff, or else, they hear people talk, in the community, on the internet or wherever, and mom and dad are at home telling them how great they are. And, people saying this is what's going to happen this week, but you can't buy into that stuff.
Let me just ask you too, with that week 10 matchup, obviously Archbold's a pretty solid team. How big of a benefit do you think that paid off for your team to finally have, a really good challenge, week 10, getting ready to prep for, playoffs, to kind of have a little bit of a test in the regular season?
Oh, I think it was huge. I mean, it can only help you moving forward. We've been in a position where we've been down at halftime, and that hasn't happened a whole lot. So, we had to respond in a positive way, and to go out in the second half and respond the way we needed to was good to see, and hopefully that'll help us down the road.
Keith?
Yeah, Coach, you briefly touched upon it with all your success you've had throughout the last 4, 5, 6 years. How do you keep the team first mentality in check?
Just, again, you got to talk about it a lot. We don't, we show video clips of, if you want to be great, we talk about Mudita and, having genuine excitement for somebody else's success. Right. And there's a famous clip kind of on YouTube of Alabama softball from years ago where the coach pulled out an All-American and put in a pinch hitter, and they hit a home run, and that All-American, could have been upset about it, but she's jumping up and down, yelling and cheering. And it's like, this is what you got. If you want to be a champion, this is what you have to do. You can't focus on yourself. It's got to be about the team. Show clip of Bo Schembechler talking about the team, the team. I mean, it's hard to do that today because everything on social media is all about how many likes do I have, how many views do I have. It's all individually based, and so we try to be the anti that, and we've had some success with that.
Yeah, there was a point, I think, Coach, during the Archbold game where one of your defensive linemen had a key interception, and just to see your sidelines was exactly what you brought up. Like
Fuentes had that interception in the Archbold
sideline
game.
was like happy and jumping for joy, and that's That's exactly what you just said.
Yeah, and part of that is we have to do team building in the preseason to make sure it's not just the seniors that are rooting for the seniors and the sophomores with the sophomores and stuff. And I know last year in week 10, we had a field goal kicker, I think, broke our school record or tied the school record with a 45-yard field goal right before halftime. And the best part, the camera's still on, and as the clock wound down to 0, and our whole team just ran on the field and was jumping up and down for, a kid who's a soccer kid first and then football second. But they were celebrating his success because they know that we're counting on him down the road. We're going to need him, and he's part of the team. He worked extremely hard. And when you have kids that work extremely hard and the other kids see that, they're going to root for him.
That's great. Mike?
One of the big things this year, obviously with the change of the playoffs, is the bye. You guys go in, you're using that opportunity to get healthy, but I'm fascinated to know from a practice perspective how you go about that week, because you can't just hone in and go, it's going to be Team A. We're going to take on them. Do you guys maybe just tune up some things during the course of the week, or are you dialed in on maybe we go this way, maybe we go that way?
Well, we kind of did a little self-audit. Okay, what is it that we need to get better at the most? What are some things that are maybe weaknesses? What are some things that we have in our toolbox that we haven't really used a lot? And so we focused on a lot of those things. Again, low impact practices, but making sure that we're doing things the right way or as best we can, and getting guys healthy. So we had some guys that we gave very few reps to. We got a lot of backups reps, or guys who play a secondary position, like, okay, if this guy goes down, we're moving you to this position. And so we got a lot of those guys reps in those secondary positions. We hit the weight room really hard. We felt like that was a week we needed to get stronger. So we kind of took that approach, and, it was really nerve-wracking when you get out of a routine. I mean, we've had the same routine every week for however long I've been coaching, and to say that, okay, now this week you're not going to have a game, you want to stay sharp, but you want to get healthy and all that. So coming out last week and playing and we played pretty well was reassuring, because it was a nerve-wracking on how we were going to respond to that.
Was it weird to not have a game on a Friday night?
Yeah, a little bit. But as soon as Monday rolled around, it was like we were back to normal. But to not have a game, we did try to keep the week as much as normal as possible. Kind of the same practice routine and stuff like that. Maybe a tweak here or there. We still had a team meal just because we felt like, well, we have a team meal every week, so we're going to do it again. And it's a meal.
Plus the linemen were going to let you not get
right.
it.
And then we practiced on Friday real short, and then we took Saturday off, which was different, but I think it's something the kids needed.
So do you like the bye or not like the bye?
After the game Friday, I liked it.
I would say so.
I
mean,
think
with
Coach
the outcome of
Mincy
the
said
game,
the
I would
same
say
thing.
it was
Yes.
pretty solid.
Yep,
So
yep.
next question I have for you, Coach, is, what's been the biggest area of growth you've seen from week 1 to now?
Oh, just our consistency. I think we're doing some things now, especially like offensively blocking, that we wouldn't have been doing week 1. So like in practice, okay, we throw out a defense that we think this is what they're going to run. We think this is who you're probably going to block on this play. And then when they do something different, it's like, oh man, our guys didn't know what to do. Now we're getting to the point where we just continue on and we're picking guys up. We're finding guys. And that's good. Defensively, I think we're getting to the ball better. I think we've grown up a little bit in the secondary, because that was an area where early in the season we had to replace 4 starters. So I think we're a little bit more solid there, and just pass rush lanes. I mean, just little things here and there, I think our guys understand and we're better at.
I think that's great. Talking from an offensive line standpoint, if you can get your offensive lineman to truly understand, the offense and the philosophy behind it, and, the reason for things. I think that's a big thing at the high school level, is if you're an offensive lineman and you can understand why you're doing something, not just doing it because coach told you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that helps out tremendously, because, there's going to be times, especially against really good teams, you're going to run into situations where you may have never repped before or practiced, and you're going to see something. But if you can kind of go back to, what the offense is based off and your rules and your blocking assignments, it just helps you that much more. So yeah, that's definitely a huge step.
Definitely. let's move on to some of your players, Coach, which you're a team guy first, but Garrison Cruz, 6 carries. I thought this was a misprint. 6 carries, 204 yards. Just talk about Garrison individually and how special of a kid he is. And he's just a junior.
Yeah, he's kind of a unicorn. He's got tremendous size. He's extremely powerful, extremely strong, and has really good speed for a guy his size. He's got good speed for a guy any size, but when you throw in he's 215 pounds, it's just a rare combination, especially at our level, to get somebody with his size and speed and power. And the biggest thing, people don't see is his work ethic. He's an extremely hard worker. And when you throw that in there with all the God-given things he's been blessed with, he becomes a really good football player. He obviously, the house he grew up in, he had to survive.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think most of his childhood he was getting beat up, and now I think the tables would probably turn in a one-on-one matchup. The other 3 might tag team him, but he's been a really special player, and you could see it when he was a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty early on. It's like he could play for us, and we brought him along very slowly, probably slower than he wanted or some of the other coaches wanted, but he's a freshman starting in the state semifinal and the state final.
We were at that game, and I remember you guys rolled him out, and man, he made some plays immediately.
I can remember, we had the injury in the regional final that year, and at the coaches meeting, I remember saying it's time to unleash Gary, and then he had a strip sack to win the game for us in the state semifinal game. So, and that's the other thing is he doesn't get phased.
Mm-hmm.
In a moment like that for a freshman, it pretty surreal for him to go make a play on, it wasn't even a blitz. It was just, he saw a window and went and took it and made a huge play. And, starting in a state final game as a freshman is incredible. It says a lot about his demeanor and his mentality.
Mike?
Offensive line, obviously Kellen Weimer getting a lot of the attention, 6'5", 285, going to Ohio State. His continued development, what has it meant for you guys, and how much is he able to kind of bring the rest of those guys along with how he understands the game?
His development has been the biggest key. You wouldn't have looked at him as a freshman and said, "Oh, there's a D1 player right there." I mean, he was 6'2", 215 pounds. But again, there was a standard set by some of the linemen ahead of him, and he kind of followed that. And again, been blessed with tremendous size, but a lot of that has been his work ethic and how much he's put into, physical training, the nutrition. And then he went out and found some, lineman work on his own in the off season. He's gone to the lineman lab and really worked to hone his craft. And that's helped him. But, it's funny for him to go through the recruiting process. What Division I coaches are looking for is not what you would think. I don't think. I mean, they're looking for athletes, and they're looking, can he bend? How agile is he? Can he move? And he's 265 pounds, and coaches are saying you don't need to gain any weight. I mean, they're going to put it on him.
Right.
And most people, I think, they see a 320-pound college lineman and they think, we got to get this kid to 300 pounds, and that is not the case. That is not what they're looking for. If you're 320 in high school, they're going to have you drop weight. And for him, they have a plan for him to put weight on. But I think our other linemen have seen, his development and kind of what he does, and they try to emulate that as well. And, for him, he was playing catch up with a couple of linemen, ahead of him. Hunter Spangler is one that is a year older than him, and I think he saw what he did as a sophomore, and he tried to mimic that, and that it's gotten him where he is.
Just kind of talking about players, who's maybe the unsung hero on this team that maybe deserves some more recognition? Obviously, I think a lot of players can kind of get overshadowed, when you have, Garrison Cruz, Kellen Weimer getting an offer from Ohio State. Even your son, I think, sometimes gets overshadowed because, your son, Thomas, he's a really solid player. I remember last year on the defensive side of the football, love the way he plays. He's very aggressive and physical, but, he's one that comes to mind. But, who all comes to your mind or maybe that don't get the recognition that they deserve?
Well, I think there's a few of them, actually. I think you mentioned one, Logan C. Fuentes is starting defensive lineman. He's all league, but everybody wants to talk about Kellen, and a lot of people want to talk about Hunter, and those are two guys that deserve to be talked about. Kellen's going to Ohio State in a year, and Hunter's a state champ shot putter. He's going to go throw shot put at Ohio State, so he gets overshadowed. But I mean, he's a blue collar kid that likes to mix it up in there, and he likes to bale hay, and he'll talk about baling hay all day long with you. He's one. Max Walker's another one that is just he's our leader. Vocally, you know, he gets nasty in the middle at linebacker, and he's a starting guard for us, and he's our kicker. And we actually have had to make him stop punting. He's not our punter anymore. He's punted for us as a freshman, and we took that away from him this year because we had our kid in Kreinbrink can punt pretty well. But it was like he was starting on offense, starting on defense. He was on the kickoff team. He would have been our punter. It was like, all right, we need to get him off the field. And, you know, he had some issues with groin last year because he was kicking so much and everything. So we kind of took that off his plate, but he's another one that just does everything. And then we've got tons of guys that just play their role. We've got seniors that are on special teams, and that might be all they do, or that might be 80% of what they do, or they're role players. We got some guys in the secondary that you're going in on third down, or our team is more of a run-heavy team. We put this kid in, and they know that role. They know those are their strengths, and you know, they play him pretty well. And then throw Caden Kreinbrink in there. We're not going to throw the ball all over the place, but he's had a really good year for us. His passing percentage is over 63%, and you know, his interceptions have been low, and just done a really good job. So it's hard to pick out just one, and I'm probably missing some, but we've had a lot of guys that just, you know, kind of go about their business, and no, I'm not going to get a lot of recognition, but by golly, our team is going to win, and we're going to be a part of it.
I think that's great. You even mentioned the role players because, you know, especially in high school and as a younger kids, you know, I feel like it's a day and age where, you know, if you're not getting that immediate, you know, satisfaction, you know, some of your kids on your team, I think you've even got some, you know, they maybe had to wait their turn because of, you know, players being ahead of them, but now it's their senior year. They're getting a chance to start, and they're fulfilling those roles. They know what their job is, and they do it well. And I mean, I think that's a huge reason why you guys have a lot of success. You get players like that filling in, and they do their job, and they fill in the role, and they know what's expected of them.
You know, one of the things I think you're exactly right. You know, we talk to our kids about, you know, some of you guys are going to have to wait your turn, and you have to work while you wait. And that comes from Kirby Smart talking about that. And I thought that was great that, you know, and maybe too much, but I put a lot of stock in our seniors. If you're a senior and you've been with our program for 4 years, you're going to get the first shot to play. We're going to find a role for you somewhere to help us win. And if you can be on the field and help us, we're going to get you out there. It might not be every play. It might not be as much as you want, but we're going to find a role for you as best we can to help us. And that means maybe some underclassmen don't get as many opportunities because we put a lot of stock in those seniors. But if you want kids to stick with the program for 4 years and give you everything they've got and be as committed as what, you know, our kids have been, you got to give those seniors a shot. And if I'm an underclassman and I don't think I'm going to get a chance as a senior, why are you going to play?
Yep.
And so, you know, maybe that's not the right approach, and maybe it doesn't always work, but that's the way, you know, I kind of think about it.
No, I think that's great. And I mean, I think that's how you get retention throughout your program. And again, that's how you build dynasties. And we'd referred to your guys' program as a dynasty over the last 5-6 years. No one else has done in Northwest Ohio what you guys are doing now. And, you know, a lot of that, you know, I think the little things like that, you know, maybe kids, you know, again, not getting that instant satisfaction, like I said, but, you know, they stay till they're seniors. It just breeds success because, you know, the other kids see, well, maybe I'm not playing as a freshman or sophomore, but if I wait it out and I see this kid, you know, he's a senior, he put his time in, he's getting some playing time. He may not be all the time, but he's helping the team out. I think that shows a lot for those underclassmen, but I think that's great. But we won't keep you too much longer. We'll kind of get into a little bit of the matchup just because I know your week's busy, so we don't want to hold you too much longer. But we'll talk a little bit about this week's matchup and then wrap things up after that. So, Keith, you got a question?
No, I was just going to ask Coach. He talked about leadership and seniors, but what's it like seeing your son grow up and coaching him into the player that he has become and the senior leader that he's become? What's that been like over the last 4 years, Coach?
Well, for me personally, it's probably one of the most satisfying things that I've been able to do. The mentality for me was, you have a son and you're a football coach. You want him to play football, but it was fairly early on that I kind of made a decision that, if he wants to play football, fine. If he one day tells me he doesn't want to play, then so be it. I mean, I don't think football defines who these kids are. Right. And it seems like that a lot of time. And I probably need to reinforce that with them that, how good of a player you are in high school is not going to define you. And so I kind of decided that a long time ago, but I also thought if you want me to help you, I'll do everything I can, but I'm not going to hound you and be a Marv Marinovich and say, we're going to do this and that. And he was one that, when he was young, asked him, hey, do you want to be a ball boy? And he was like all in and wanted to do it. And even when he got into junior high, and I think, kids want to go hang out with their friends in the games, and he wanted to be on the sidelines, and he enjoyed that, and I enjoyed having him there. And then he got into the high school program, and I think he saw how everybody else worked and, just kind of picked up on that, and he knew what everything was about. But just him initiating all that and not having me to hound him is really satisfying. I can't take credit for whatever he's accomplished. Has been all him. He's been very self-motivated and self-driven, and not just him, but his friends. On Sundays in the off season, they're up at the field playing touch football or flash ball or whatever. And then he wants to get in the weight room, and he calls a buddy to go with him and things like that. So that's been the best part, is to see him get some of his buddies involved in that and as many kids as he can. And, people ask, do you guys talk about football at home? And no, we don't. Once in a while I'll say something, but he watches film on his own. He knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. And again, it's all been self-driven. And probably as a freshman, I didn't really say anything, but as a sophomore, I told him, look, if you want to get on the field, you're going to have to show the other coaches that you can do something, because I'm not going to volunteer you to do something. Like if somebody says, hey, we need somebody to do this, I'm not going to say, hey, Thomas can do that. I said, you need to have another coach do that. Otherwise, I'm fine with you playing JV, because that's where you're going to develop. And, another coach kind of said, hey, we need somebody to be able to do this. I think Thomas can do it. And he kind of took that opportunity and ran with it. And I was very proud of him for that. And I basically said, coaches wants you to do this. You better know what the heck you're doing. And ever since then, he's been very cerebral about the game and worked really hard at it.
Awesome. One of the big things that I immediately take out of that is all the people who are pausing it to go back to look up the Marinovich reference. Who's he talking about? Big thing this week is one thing that LB loves to hang their hat on. They gave up about 300 rushing yards during the regular season. Is strength on strength for you with this game. Big offensive line. They want to come at you. They want to rush at you. They're banged up. They're maybe missing a kid or two. How do you kind of look at them and kind of put that matchup together of our strength, their strength?
Well, I mean, when you get to this point in the season, that you're going to get a lot of that. Here's what we do. This is what they do well. I think you've got to be able to. You got to dance with who you took to the dance, and so for us, we got to do what we do. And then you got to have, contingency plans and things like that. But, we're going to do the best we can to kind of poke and prod and see what we can do, where we can find a weakness and things like that. But, we talk a lot about, we got to be patient. We're not going to get out to, running clock in the first half and stuff like that maybe we did in the regular season. And so we talk about in playoff football, you got to be patient. You got to stay ahead of the chains, minimize mistakes, play good field position, take care of the football, and that'll at least give us a chance if we can do that. And nothing's going to be easy, and we know that. And we've played them 2 years out of the last 3, and nothing's been easy when we played them. They're really well coached. They've got a lot of great players, so it's going to be tough for us, but we're gonna do the best we can.
Come Friday night, what are the biggest keys to a victory for Liberty Center to come out with a win?
Well, I think we have to minimize their big plays. If they're going to score, we need to make them drive the field. because they're an explosive offense. They've got a ton of weapons, really hard to defend. We're going to have to control the line of scrimmage. You know, a lot of people want to talk about their skill guys, and deservedly so, but their offensive line and defensive line are big and strong and really good and very experienced. So we have to battle up there. And then, like I said, we got to be patient on offense, and we want to just keep the chains moving. And we want to end drives with kicks, you know, extra points, punts. If we're doing that, then we're not turning the ball over, maybe playing good field position. And I think special teams are going to be big as we get into the playoffs. We always talk about special teams, and, you know, we want to field punts because, you know, on turf, if you let a punt hit, it's going to roll 15 to 20 yards, and those are yards you're losing.
Yep.
If we can catch a punt and maybe get 5 yards, you know, I don't think people understand how important that is.
100%.
Our coverage units have got to, you know, contain them. You know, if we can kick the ball in the end zone, that's best case scenario. But if not, we got to cover and we got to tackle, and we can't allow them to get the ball, you know, beyond the 30, 35, 40-yard line where, you know, 1 first down and now you got to stop them 4 downs and stuff like that. So those are some of the big keys, I think, for us.
Yeah, and I like how you brought up special teams. I mean, that's the third part of the game. And, you know, we talk all the time on the podcast, you know, how many times we see in high school especially where, you know, guys maybe not coming up to field punts, they let it bounce, and then they lose 10, 15 yards. Or even, you know, on the punt team, they punt the ball away, and it's down near the end zone, and, you know, guys aren't getting down there. And, you know, in college, they called it defending the 2. They got to the 2-yard line and defend it, and they let it bounce in the end zone. Those key plays, especially against good teams, you know, pay off huge. So I definitely appreciate you talking about special teams, because that's a huge aspect I think often gets overlooked. So
Definitely.
Yeah, that's why they call them special.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you got 2 of the best. And you're actually, Coach, I think you got 3 or 4. Didn't you have 2 or 3 kickers earlier in the year?
We've used
We're rather
3.
deep at the special teams.
We are pretty deep at
position.
the kicker spot, and that's something, you know, we've got kids that work at it. We've got a coach that helps them out, but those kids got to show up and work on their own time for that. And we've had a handful of kids do that, and so we've been fortunate that, you know, we could take a little bit off Max's plate, and we have a couple backups that can go in there and do a really good job for us.
Just wrapping things up here. I just got a couple points, and I'll let Keith give one good one here in a minute. 4 straight conference titles, you know, deep playoff runs every year. You know, you've had multiple state runner-up finishes. What does it mean to you to represent Liberty Center in this community in that way? I mean, that's pretty special. There's not many teams that can say they've done that, but you know, Liberty Center is very prideful, and you guys have done a great job over there. So what does it mean to you?
I mean, it's pretty awesome. You know, growing up there and loving football and enjoying that in my childhood, and being a part of it now, I think, and seeing the community pride that they have in our program is very fulfilling. That's one of our whys. You know, why do we do what we do? And first is we do it for our teammates, but the second is, you know, our community. Our community does so much for us monetarily and support wise that, you know, it's kind of like we owe it to them to give our best effort. You know, it doesn't mean we're always going to win, but we got to give our best effort and try to make them proud. So that's a huge part of it. And, you know, we talk to them all the time. Is like, not every school gets this kind of support. Right. You know, see, you look at some of our games, you know, our stands are packed, and then the other side, maybe a third packed, you know, with people. It's like,
right.
Not everybody gets what we get. So we gotta make sure that we understand that.
So I'll save my last wrap up thing, but Keith is an expert at asking some, you know, off the wall kind of fun questions, but just want one question to lighten the mood. So Keith, what are you going to ask him?
Boy,
Anything you
oh boy,
want.
I didn't have anything planned, Logan.
Well,
but-
any of the extra questions
All
you have
right.
on there,
Hey,
whatever you want to
favorite
ask.
Pregame ritual, Coach. We asked Coach Menzies the same thing last week. What's your favorite pregame Friday ritual?
I assume it's making TikToks.
No, don't do that. Come home from school, whether it's an away game or home game, and I take a nap. Home games, I try to get at least 20 to 30 minutes in. For an away game, if I can catch 15 minutes, I do that, and then head to the school, and I always stop at Grandma's General Store and get a Slim Jim and a Pepsi. Tabasco for away games, original for home games, and they're the jumbo size.
That's awesome.
Was that it happened one time that way? Is that why there's a difference? Because you're superstitious?
It's routine. It actually started out when my son was a ball boy. And, we didn't let him drink pop at home, but every Friday, like, hey, you want to get a Pepsi? So we'd go in and get these they're called little
Smokies. No wonder why he loves Fridays.
Yeah. We get these little Smokies that were like homemade beef sticks or something. And then COVID hit and then you couldn't get those anymore. Mm-hmm. So I switched to Slim Jims and got Tabasco for an away one time and we won. So I just kept doing that. And
that's awesome.
That's how I do it.
See, I always like hearing stuff from coaches because I mean, everyone's so used to seeing you guys on the sideline on Friday night, but what goes on behind the scenes. So that's
all I heard was Macho Man Casey Mohler.
Did you ever take one of those naps, Coach, and you wake up, you're like, boy, I shouldn't have done that.
Well, I always set a timer because if I sleep too long, then I don't want to be late or anything like that. But usually need a nap. Thursdays don't get a lot of sleep at night.
Other than that, I mean, that pretty much concludes our interview with you. So I just want to say, thank you for coming on. Appreciate having you on. We haven't had you on, I don't think, for a couple of years on the podcast. We had you on the kickoff show, but always great questions and great interview with you. So I appreciate you taking the time, especially, a busy playoff week. So,
well, thanks for having me. I know our coaching staff and community appreciates anybody who's supporting high school football, and you guys do a great job of that. And hopefully we can continue to get the numbers up all over the place.
That's awesome. All right. Stay tuned for the next segment on the podcast.
ESN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, you're always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. Looking for a personalized financial guidance right here in Bryan, Ohio? Meet Melissa R. Stockman, CHFC, a trusted Edward Jones financial advisor. Melissa specializes in retirement savings and income strategies, estate and legacy planning, customizable wealth strategies, insurance and annuities, and support for entrepreneurs and business owners. As a chartered financial consultant, she brings deep expertise and care in building financial plans tailored to your goals. Ready to take your next financial step? Call Melissa's office at 419-633-0647 or visit Edward Jones on 130 North Main Street, Bryan, to get started. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning programs. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Under the lights this Friday night. While your team is taking hits on the field, who's got your back off the field? At Batten Stevens Body Shop in Defiance, we tackle the toughest repairs, from fender benders to full collision restoration. Our iCar Gold Class team scores big on quality and service. Proudly serving Defiance County for over 40 years, with certified technicians, advanced diagnostics, and lifetime warranties. We work with all major insurance providers. Batten Stevens Body Shop, the home team when your car takes a hit. Visit us at battenstevens.com or call 419-497-3111. Fitzenreiter HVAC, keeping Northwest Ohio comfortable since 1955. Whether it's scorching summer heat or bitter winter cold, Fitzenreiter has your back with expert heating, cooling, and indoor air quality solutions for your residential and commercial needs. Need fast, reliable service? Call the local pros you can trust. Fitzenreiter HVAC. Give them a call today at 419-784-0828 or visit fitzenreiterhvac.com for more info. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. Start your day off right at Paulding Pancake House, serving up delicious breakfast, lunch, and dinner from Tuesday through Sunday. It's your go-to spot for home-style meals at any time of day. Swing by and enjoy everything from classic pancakes to hearty lunch and dinner options. There's something for everyone at the Paulding Pancake House. Craving a local favorite? Head to Ensign's Pub, where you'll find the best hot beef sandwiches and famous knockers in town. Whether you're celebrating after the big game or just need a great meal, Ensign's has you covered. Stop by for great food, cold drinks, and good company. Located on 611 Ottawa Avenue in Defiance, open Tuesday through Saturday. Nestled in the heart of Sherwood, Ohio, Crystal Fountain Park invites you to say I do, in a place where history whispers around every corner. Surrounded by 28 acres of woods, meadows, illuminated trails, outdoor chapels, a tranquil reflection pond, and fire pit lounges. Whether planning a wedding, rehearsal dinner, or elegant gathering, Crystal Fountain Park blends historic elegance with modern flexibility and heartfelt service. Visit crystalfountainpark.com or call 419-576-1910 today to book your unforgettable moment.
We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to round 3 of the playoff game predictions. So we got a couple games on the slate. We'll roll through them and let you know our picks. First game is the 5-seed Liberty Benton, 12-0, travels to the 1-seed Liberty Center, 11-0. We just got done talking to Coach Mohler about it. We had, kind of referred to this game earlier in the podcast as well. Two really good teams, but I think Liberty Benton's dealing with, a little bit of the injury bug. It's affecting some key players. With Liberty Center, again, they have been unstoppable, and I don't think that Liberty Benton's faced a team like Liberty Center in terms of physicality and running the football. I think Liberty Center, I think they win big, and I think they possibly get a running clock this game. I'm saying it right now. So give me the Tigers.
I'm taking the Tigers as well, Logan, for all the points that you said, and really don't have anything more to add.
AJ's pick was Liberty Center. Tony's pick was Liberty Center. Matthew's pick was Liberty Center. Mike?
Just because my current pick is Liberty Center. Listening to Casey talk, I feel a great deal of confidence, and I think you're right about LB, and I'm not trying to get attacked when I get home, but people won't see us till tomorrow. It'll be fine. But, they're just a different animal right now.
Next game, the 9-seed Cary at 8-4 travels to the 4-seed Paulding 11-0. This is going to be our NWO Sports Game of the Week and our broadcast Game of the Week, so be sure to tune in on Network One Sports or YouTube if available. So listen in to Matt, Janie, and Tony Crier. With this game, man, I tell you what, Cary, similar team to Liberty Center, but even probably more traditional of a run team. At least Liberty Center will open things up a little bit. Cary's going to come at you, run an I formation, big physical football team, and they've been upsetting a lot of teams. They beat Patrick Henry. They knock off the 1 seed in Margaretta. They're playing really good football, and I tell you what, on Friday night, that place is going to be packed again because Paulding's fans are showing out, and Cary's going to bring a lot of people too, and the Cary's about, an hour and a half away?
Probably.
So with this game, man, I kind of went back and forth, and Cary's, again, playing some really good football. That rushing attack is tough to stop. They're firing on all cylinders. Paulding is coming off a big win in a defensive battle against Fairview. I think this game's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think it's going to be close, and I think Paulding edges it out. So give me the Panthers.
We saw Cary last year, Logan. Cary came over to Sonora and knocked off the Rams. Very, very, very hard offense to find the ball. Like if you're a fan in the stand, you're going to pay attention.
A lot of misdirection.
A lot of action going on back there. 3 backs back there occasionally, and there's been times where the quarterback rolls out and pitches to a running back who pitches to another running back. We've seen it several times.
And mind you this, their quarterback, I remember a couple of years ago too, will lead block for the running back. There's times that he will do a toss, he'll spin around, and he'll be one of the lead blockers for the running back. I've never seen that before. It's incredible.
It's a very unique offense. It's kind of like Army-Navy, but more diverse, I guess. Not going to be very much passing here for Cary in this game. But watching Paulding's defense last week shut down the Apaches offense, which was one of the best in Division 6 in the state. I think Coach Menzie and that defensive staff will have a good game plan. So taking Paulding here.
AJ had Cary, Tony had Paulding, and Matthew had Cary. Who's Mike Herring?
I don't need any other people saying mean things about me on the interwebs. Now, Cary is close to my house, and you're right that offense messed me up a couple years ago in the state finals, even though I knew what was coming. And the fact that their coaching staff has ties to Putnam County is kind of a cool thing for stuff I do. But I'm not trying to have people be mean to me on the internet this week, so I'm going to pick Paulding too.
Next game, the 3-seed Archbold at 9-2 travels to the 2-seed Hopewell Loudon 10-1. We talked about the Blue Streaks a lot earlier in the podcast. Again, they're playing really great football. Maddox Pinter continues to be efficient for just being a sophomore. He's now finally starting to get into some big time games. Coach Dominic is coaching the guys up really well. I think I think in this game, Hopewell Loudon is favored as well, but I'm taking the Blue Streaks. They're still my favorite to get out of this region, and I think they get the job done on Friday night. I do think it is a little bit closer, a 1-2 score game, but I think Archbold comes out victorious.
I agree with you, Logan. Outside of the Liberty Center being the dominant team that they were over Archbold in that Week 10 game, Archbold's pretty much been rolling all season. So even the game Mike said earlier about St. Henry and, all the positive things that coach had to say. So taking the streaks.
And AJ, Tony, and Matthew all had Archbold. Mike, who are you picking?
That's why they call it the streak. Boogity boogity. I think, again, for everything that he just said about earlier, St. Henry, a pretty smart coach told me they're pretty good, so I'm going with them.
All right, we're on to the next game. The 4-seed Columbus Grove Bulldogs at 8-3 traveled to the 1-seed Lima Central Catholic. I got to say this. As they always say, it's tough to beat a team twice. So
That's what the internet says.
But anyhow, again, Grove had the upper hand in the regular season. I think they get it done this season. They found their identity. Brody McClure's running the football really well. Trevin Baxter, again, it continues to be a significant weapon. Last week, they get Gavin Barraza involved a little bit more in the rushing attack. Landon Best, again, doesn't turn the ball over. He's very efficient, probably one of the highest completion percentages in Northwest Ohio for a quarterback. The kid doesn't make mistakes, and he can run the football too. I'm taking Grove. I think they win the second matchup of the Grove and Lima Central Catholic game. So give me the Bulldogs.
I'm with you, Logan. Columbus Grove's been on cruise control, starting to play well since week 4. Pretty much dominated most of their games throughout that streak. So, fool me once, fool me twice. Columbus Grove takes the season sweep over LCC.
And AJ, Tony, and AJ and Tony had Columbus Grove, but hold on.
Uh-oh.
Matthew's going against the grain. Lima Central Catholic.
Whoa.
So may cause a little bit of a ruckus down there.
Matthew and Columbus Grove fans.
Columbus Grove.
You guys got issues. Grove is 6-0 against the same team the second time around since Andy Shaver's been at Grove. He knows how to get things done. I asked him about this game. He said, I have a massive amount of respect for LCC. Their skill matches ours. We don't expect that Trevin Baxter is going to see the ball on special teams. They're just flat out not going to kick it to him. We have to play better for 4 quarters. We haven't had a great edge. Our last 2 quarters have not been great. But there's just something about that group that, for me, I think Grove gets it done.
And the final game on the slate, the 7-seed Pandora Gilboa at 9-3 travels to the 3-seed in Leipsic 10-1. I really think this game's going to be a great game to go watch. I think it's going to be close all night long.
Or listen to
as well. Give a little bit of a plug in there.
Shout out to Putnam Sports Radio.
There you go. And Leipsic, we've talked about their offense all year long. Mark Kirkendall, Williams, Paris, the list goes on and on, but that defense has been stout as of late. Pandora Gilboa, they've had a solid season as well, 9-3, able to come up with a big win early on against Columbus Grove early in the season. So I'm really intrigued by this matchup. This is a great game to go to if you're a fan, but at the end of the night, I think Leipsic gets it done being at home. I think that helps them as well. So give me the Vikings.
This will be the second meeting as well for these 2 teams during the season. I think the first matchup was early in the season, week
September 12th.
4th. And that was a very low-scoring game.
12-7.
This one may not be as low-scoring. Excuse me, frog in the throat today. But I think Leipsic and their offense is just rolling, similar to Columbus Grove. They're going to be tough to beat here. So I'm taking the Vikings.
AJ had Pandora Gilboa. Tony had Leipsic. Matthew had Leipsic. Mike Hearn, who do you have?
Apparently, only AJ and I are friends this week because I'm going with PG. If you saw what Chase Meyer did last week, and Corey Girton is just on fire right now. I love Matt Hershey with what he's able to do. I talked to, again, Chase Detro, who's a PG grad who's covering this game. I like what Leipsic does. They present a lot of different challenges, but you pick a team on a heater at times. And right now, for me, that's PG.
Very well said. So we'll see what happens on Friday night. That concludes our game predictions. Closing thoughts heading into week 13.
Thank God it's going to be almost 60.
Yeah, that's true. We were just talking about that a little bit ago. I don't even know the last time it's been that warm for this deep into the playoffs. We're looking into the second week of November and 60-degree weather.
Yeah.
I would have never imagined. So
we've been spoiled with fantastic weather this season, and it's going to be another fantastic Friday night. Looking forward to the game we're headed to. Friday nights are winding down. There's only a few more left in the season, so this is your last chance to get out there and support your local team if they're still, active in the playoffs. So
There are going to be some absolute banger of games this weekend.
There are.
And a lot of teams that I think, a lot of results people are going to be looking at saying, I got a pretty good feeling Northwest Ohio is going to do pretty well at the state level in a couple of weeks.
Right.
And
No
this is, like I said, these are all big games, and there are definitely some across the state that this is going to be a lot of fun this weekend.
Yeah, and I think last week we saw, a fair amount of blowouts last week, but this week I think it's a different case, and I think a lot of these games are tight and they play into the fourth quarter. And like I said, if you're a fan or a player of opposing school that got knocked out, get out and go to some of these games. And if you want
Rep your conference.
Yeah, rep your conference. Just get out and watch some good quality Northwest Ohio high school football. So other than that, if you see us at the game, I think AJ and his crew and AJ, Kayla, and Tony, I think they're going to go Liberty Center, and then Keith and myself and our broadcast crew of Matt and Tony will be at Paulding and Cary. So if you happen to see any of us, stop and say hi. We always appreciate
Or
that.
throw a hot dog at them.
Actually, Logan had a trivia contest for
I did.
the Paulding student section.
Paulding student section. Yeah, I just asked them to name the guys on the podcast, and they got a free T-shirt.
Name the guys or name the guys you like.
Yeah, maybe that too.
Two different T-shirts.
But yeah, if you see us, stop and say hi. We'll have a little conversation with you. I always like to talk
Absolutely.
football. So.
That's fun. We have a good conversation with
So,
everybody.
glad to be back at Paulding this week. So other than that, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors: BSN Sports, Bat and Stevens Body Shop, Titan Sports, Fitz and Ryder, Edward Jones and Melissa Stockman, DeLarber Concrete and Hauling, Crystal Fountain Park, Defiance Chiropractic Center, Northwest Ohio Basketball, Remax Realty and Matt Yost, Sonora Rams Live, the Drop Zone Pizzeria, the Paulding Pancake House, Ensign's Pub, and Gamble Home Improvements. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Defiance Chiropractic Center for allowing us to use their office for the podcast. Stay tuned for the next NWO Sports Podcast in the near future, and thanks for watching.